May I welcome members and the viewing public to the meeting of the City Council. Please, item number 1, welcome and housekeeping announcements. Please can I ask the Monitoring Officer, David Hollis, to announce the housekeeping arrangements. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Please can I request members of the public familiarise themselves with the fire safety and evacuation notices displayed in the public gallery. In the event of the fire alarm sounding, please take instruction from the security attendants who will be in attendance throughout the meeting. Please can I also request everyone switch electronic devices to silent mode so as not to disturb the conduct of the meeting. Today's meeting will be webcast and the recording will be available for people to view later through the Council's website. It is also possible that Sheffield Live TV will record and rebroadcast this meeting. Webcasting notices providing further information are displayed in the public gallery. Members of the public are permitted to take photographs and to film or audio record the meeting, but the Lord Mayor, as chair of the meeting, does have discretion to withdraw or suspend this permission if the recording is disrupting the conduct of the meeting, is being undertaken in a manner which could capture personal information, or if a member of the public participating objects to being filmed. Any member of the public due to speak at the meeting who does not wish to be filmed should say so at the start of their speech, and the Lord Mayor will suspend the permission to film their contribution. The webcast will, though, still record the audio contribution. Finally, please may I request for safety reasons that no recording, equipment, banner or any other object is held over the balcony from the public gallery. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I shall conclude these housekeeping announcements by stating that this meeting is scheduled to finish at 5:30 p.m. But I shall adjourn the meeting at an appropriate point in the proceedings to give members the opportunity to take a comfort break. Before we start the formal business, I now propose to hold a minute's silence in memory of former councillor Viv Nicholson, who served on the council from 1983 to 1999, representing the former Park Ward, who passed away on the 1st of April. Please join me in a minute's silence and stand if you can. Thank you. I shall give the opportunity for members to pay tribute to Viv at the end of the meeting. Item number 2, apologies for absence. I have received apologies from councillors Diane Hurst and Anne Walhouse. Are there any further apologies from members? Thank you. Item number 3, exclusion of the press and public. There are no items of business on the agenda for the meeting where resolutions may be moved to exclude the press and public. Item number 4, declarations of interest. This item of business is to enable members of the council to declare an interest in any item on the agenda. Does any member wish to declare an interest? Thank you. Item number 5, public petitions, questions and statements and other communications. I'm now going to make a statement. Sheffield Plan proposed additional site allocations. The report being considered by full council today is about focused changes to Sheffield's draft local plan, what we've referred to as the Sheffield Plan. As you are aware, the report
This one's working.
Thank you. That's never happened before. I do apologise. Where did I get to? We refer to as the Sheffield Plan. As you are aware, the report proposes to release land from Greenbelt to provide additional land for new development. I want to take this opportunity to explain clearly the background of this issue, what will happen next if full council approves the report today, and how public participations in the meeting today will be managed. The Sheffield Plan covers the whole of Sheffield except the area within the Peak District National Park and sets out the overall requirement for new development over the 17-year period 2022 to 2039. It's a legal requirement for all planning authorities to produce a local plan for their area. The plan has already been subject to 2 rounds of public consultation. Consultation on issues and options took place in autumn 2020 and further consultation on the draft plan took place in early 2023. The draft plan was submitted to the government in October 2023 for public examination, and 3 inspectors were subsequently appointed by the government to examine the soundness of the plan. The tests of the soundness are set out in the National Planning Policy Framework. The draft plan proposed 218 hectares of land for employment land and enough land for 34,680 additional homes. The plan was submitted to the government in October 2023, did not propose any release of greenfield land in the Greenbelt for development. The only Greenbelt land proposed for release is at the former Norton Aerodrome in the south of the city, a sustainably located brownfield site. I make these points now because it is important that everyone understands that these latest proposals being considered today are part of a much wider plan, which is focused on the regeneration of the existing urban areas and reuse of brownfield sites. Much of the evidence relating to urban areas has already been examined by the inspectors. We must be clear that the consultation on additional sites does not reopen debate about sites that the inspectors have already considered. The inspectors will, however, be prepared to look at any new evidence on urban capacity that is put forward. The inspectors held a series of public hearings last year into various aspects of the plan, but they paused the examination in November because they said that based on the evidence they had heard up to that point, they had concerns about the supply of employment and housing land proposed in the plan. The inspectors subsequently wrote to the council in February to formally set out their preliminary conclusions. Whilst they accepted much of the council's evidence, they considered that both the housing and employment land requirements should be higher than is proposed in the draft plan, which was submitted in October 2023. Therefore, more land needs to be identified for development. The report before full council today is a response to the request of the inspectors to identify more sites for development. If full council approves this report today, the public will have an opportunity to have their say on the proposed additional site allocations. Public consultation on the proposals and the supporting evidence would start on the 29th of May and run for 6 weeks until the 11th of July. All of the consultation responses will be considered by the inspectors. They will not come back to the council. The inspectors would use the responses to the consultation to set agendas for public hearings in the autumn. These public hearings will provide an opportunity for the detailed issues raised in the petitions and questions to full council today to be considered. Anyone seeking a change to the proposed allocation would also be entitled to present further written evidence and or appear at the hearings. Once the public hearings have ended, the inspectors will issue their preliminary report, which will recommend main modifications where they are necessary to make the plan sound. I would like to stress that this may or may not include some or all of the sites currently being considered. Any amendments which the inspector considers are required to make the plan sound will be subject of a further period of public consultation, likely to be in early 2026. The council must then make the recommended main modifications if they wish to adopt the plan. Following receipt of the inspector's final report, the plan, including any main modifications, will then come back to the full council to be considered for adoption. This is expected around July 2026. I wanted to take the time to clearly outline the process that will be followed at this meeting today in terms of public participations. 3 petitions have been received. We have also received over 70 public questions and 20 public statements. We will hear the 3 petitions. After all 3 petitions have been presented, Council Leader, Councillor Hunt, will provide a response. Next, we will allow all questions to be read out. Firstly, we will hear from people who wish to ask the questions themselves. Secondly, we will hear the questions from people who have requested for them to be read out on their behalf. Due to time constraints and the volume of public participation received, Councillor Hunt will not respond individually to each question as it is asked. After the public questions have been heard, Councillor Hunt will provide a response which will address the main themes that have been raised by the questioners. Councillor Hunt's response will not engage in detail with specific issues raised relating to individual sites. Matters of detail regarding specific sites will be considered in full by the inspectors via the consultation process and subsequent public examination. As part of this process, the Council will be asked by inspectors to respond to detailed points via evidence statements and during hearing sessions in the autumn. We will then listen to all the statements, including those where people have asked for them to be read out. This is an important part of democratic process, giving everyone the opportunity for their statement to be made in a public forum. We will allow as much time as is needed for all questions and statements to be read out. And if necessary, we will extend the length of the meeting to accommodate that. The approach that I have outlined above means that everyone who wishes for their voice to be heard today will be given that opportunity. I also want to reiterate there will be further opportunities to raise concerns at the consultation events and in written representations during the consultation period. Thank you. I have one thing to add. All the questions and the statements and the petitions, if you could please keep to the ones that you have been submitted. I will not be allowing for those to be deviated from widely. I don't expect you to remember every I, every T, but the question must be the question and the statement and the petition that has been submitted. Petitions. For this meeting, we have received 3 petitions. May I request that the petitioners be brief, keep within their time limit of 3 minutes. After all petitions have been heard, the leader will provide a response. Can I call upon the Chief Executive to announce the petitions? Chief Executive.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I've received an online petition containing approximately 480 signatures calling on the Council to stop excessive housing development on Greenbelt land in Ecclesfield. The lead petitioner is Andrew Robinson, who is present but not presenting the petition to Council today. I've also received a paper petition and an online petition containing approximately 3,700 signatures calling on the Council to stop the housing development on Greenbelt land in Handsworth. The lead petitioner is Mark Barnsley. Sapphire McCarthy, on behalf of the group, opposition to the removal of Greenbelt land in S13, wishes to address Council. As the Lord Mayor has said, it is recommended that the petition is referred to the Leader of the Council and Chair of the Strategy and Resources Policy Committee, Councillor Tom Hunt, who will respond when all petitions have been heard.
I'm addressing the Council on behalf of the S13 community in response to the sudden announcement of the 2 Greenbelt sites in the already condensed area of S13 which could have their protected status removed. Half of all proposed new housing in Greenbelt in the local plan is earmarked for just one postcode, ours. We'll feel this is disproportionate and unfair. All while some council properties sit empty and the country holds sites that already have planning permission granted, we feel developers are choosing not to build the homes they potentially could. We were not included in the public consultations in 2020 or 2023, and we've been denied the chance to respond properly. With 4,000 signatures almost opposing the development, we therefore seek to have the plan amended. The suggestion of 2 vast sites in S13 does not seem to take into consideration the impact of housing development that is already due to start near Medlock Close or the Waverley site in neighbouring Rotherham. Appendices 6 and 7 of the Sheffield Plan state site S02502 would perform a weak role in preventing urban sprawl, allowing everywhere from the Waverley to Woodhouse to become one massive settlement. We've been told infrastructure will be added, but the Handsworth and Retford roads can't be widened, so traffic and pollution will surely rise. Surrounding roads will become rat runs. There are 16 sites in the west of Europe's greenest city, where green space is plentiful, yet they were rejected. With the sale of the Medlock site, despite it being rejected by the plan, 75% of S13 suggested Greenbelt will be built on. We have very little Greenbelt, and yet we're the ones being asked to sacrifice it. Site S02502 was added for development despite being likely to have significant ecological value and it requiring further ecology assessment, according to the appendices. It is also stated that the development of this site would impact the rural character of the landscape. The plan does include a secondary school, but nowhere for early years and primary age school children, despite existing schools and nurseries being oversubscribed. Next week, our children are marking Mayor Coppard's Walk to School Week and will take to the bridleway that runs along Bramley Lane to both Ballyfield and Handsworth Grange schools. Hundreds of people travelling to these schools access the bridleway. According to Appendices 6 and 7, that route may be lost to development, forcing children to walk beside busy roads or travel by car, worsening emissions. Local residents already struggle to access GP surgeries when they need to. Residents already wait years for a place on dentists' books. Our community is already allowed to live with insufficient healthcare services. We feel the council should be addressing these inadequacies before considering forcing even more people into the area. We've been told the inspectorate won't give much weight to petitions, but you can. Thousands of people elected you to listen, and they've made it clear. This plan is unjust, and S13 deserves better.
I've received an online petition containing approximately 1,895 signatures calling on the council to protect Greenbelt land in Chapeltown from development. The lead petitioner is Matthew Pegler, who cannot be in attendance today. Mark Ash wishes to address the council. As before, it's recommended that the petition is referred to the Leader of the Council and Chair of the Strategy and Resources Policy Committee, Councillor Tom Hunt, for response.
Thank you. I live on Warren Lane, which is one of the sites earmarked for building B2 heavy industrial units on the field adjacent, which surrounds what can only be described as its own little community, surrounded by this beautiful green space, which the residents currently enjoy and provides a thriving ecosystem, which is currently protected by Greenbelt and historic woods, which is now under threat. Warren Lane predominantly consists of elderly residents with a retirement home and special needs properties for adult care in the community, which all rely on the green surroundings for their residents' mental health and well-being, which currently benefits us all. These plans will not only decimate the landscape, but will impact the environment that will never be recovered once cast in concrete, which will shadow over the local residences forever. The land already acts as a buffer zone to the residences with noise from the adjacent M1, and these plans will compound the noise pollution along with light and air pollution and an increase in CO2, all adding negatively to climate change, which I thought Sheffield City Council were an advocate for, and contradicting the Sheffield's net zero 2030 goals. It also set a dangerous precedent of mass development with no greenbelt being safe from developers, affecting Sheffield residents and generations to come. Do our councillors want this to be their legacy? The proposed plans will also compact the already stressed services and infrastructure in the area, with traffic continually backing up in and around the A616 Tackersley bypass and the A6135 White Lane into Chapeltown, which adds at least 20 minutes to any journey during peak times already. We also note the unfair distribution of the plans, which are condensed in the S535 area, along with the objectionable use of Greenbelt, which does not meet National Planning Policy Framework Directive of Exceptional Circumstances or the Golden Rules, with not all brown belt being surveyed or even considered. Therefore, I am presenting you with this petition, which, due to the lack of publicity and lack of due process and duty of care by Sheffield City Council, we have had limited time to distribute, but in this short period of time have gained over 1,900 signatures now. Once we highlight our plight and gain more momentum, I'm sure we can vastly improve on this, with Chapeltown being one of your largest voting constituencies. And with this in mind, I would urge you to reject these plans and turn your focus on utilising alternate brown belt land and other areas of Sheffield that are in much greater need of regeneration, and not at the cost of our environment and green belt and at the expense of your constituents' well-being and health. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Executive, you've got one more, haven't you? Right, we're now going to move on to questions and... Oh, sorry, my fault. I do apologise, Councillor Hunt. That's okay, I was confused by that. Councillor Hunt, would you please like to respond, including the petition that you've had the written statement for?
Great. Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Thank you to the petitioners for joining us today. I don't underestimate how difficult and significant it is to come here today. It's a fundamental part of our politics, and particularly of the local plan process, that everyone has the right to contribute, and we want you to be heard. Thank you to everyone who signed the petitions. I can assure you that the proposals that we're considering today about the potential release of Greenbelt land is something that none of us take lightly, and indeed is something that should only be considered in exceptional circumstances. In my response today to all of the petitions together, I'm going to talk about how we got here today. I'll talk about our Brownfield First local plan. I'll speak about the golden rules which set high standards for affordable housing, for infrastructure and for green spaces that will apply to any potential Greenbelt development in the future. And I'll say something brief about the implications of not having a local plan. This is an emotive subject, and I do understand the depth of feeling. We'll hear a lot today, and I've been clear that everyone, as the Lord Mayor has agreed, needs to have their chance to have their say. People in Sheffield will always tell you what they think, be fair-minded, and be prepared to listen. And the people of Sheffield are at the heart of today's decision, because Sheffield, like the UK, has not been building enough homes for a very long time. As a result, how many of us know adults who are living at home with their parents because they can't get a home? How many of us worry that our children and grandchildren won't be able to have the same opportunities that we have? How many people in their 30s and 40s are stuck renting when they want to get on and maybe delaying starting a family? How many of us know that the place that we live is brilliant, but worry that our friends and family won't be able to live there too? I know from looking around the room that the answer is lots of us to all those questions. We've all heard those concerns from our friends, from our family, our neighbours, and from the people that we represent. To help tackle the housing crisis, you need to have a plan. That is what the local plan does. It is a plan to allocate land so that the city has the homes and the jobs that we need. A plan to make sure that good quality homes are built with the right infrastructure to support communities. A plan for more affordable housing. A plan for more regeneration on brownfield land. And a plan for more jobs to make sure that we have the sites for employment in a growing economy. And over the last couple of years, all parties in the council's cross-party administration have been involved in shaping and developing the plan. A cross-party member working group has met regularly with the planning officers to guide the progress of the plan. And I'd like to take this moment to thank those members of the working group for their work to develop the plan. From the Lib Dems, Councillor Mike Levery and Councillor Andrew Sanger. From the Greens, Christine Gilligan-Kubo and Paul Turpin. And from the Labour group, Ben Miskell and Fran Belburn. I'd like to place on record my thanks to the planning officers for their work too. As the Lord Mayor has set out, the plan was submitted in 2023, and throughout 2024, the Independent Planning Inspectorate examined the plan in public and considered the public's views. The inspectors, as the Lord Mayor said, wrote to us in February to say that Sheffield's housing requirement should be increased by 3,500 additional homes to take the total to just over 38,000. More of us are living longer, more of us are living alone, and we're a growing city. They also consider that the amount of employment land that we need should be increased. At this point, let us all be really clear that the draft plan that was submitted by this council to examiners is a brownfield first plan. A brownfield first plan that didn't propose any greenbelt land any greenfield land in the greenbelt for development. The overwhelming majority of new homes proposed and virtually all the employment land are on brownfield sites. 18,000 homes on brownfield land in the city centre. I know that lots of people will look at former industrial sites or empty plots in the city today and think that homes should be built on them. I walk and drive around the city too, and I see those sites too. The reality is that lots of them are being earmarked for house building and employment in the plan, which means that they will be built on over the lifetime of the plan up to 2039. So much so that there are no more available brownfield bits of land left to allocate for housing or employment. On that basis, the independent inspectors think that exceptional circumstances could exist to justify the release of some Greenbelt land in Sheffield. But the council's planning team, rightly, have to explore all other alternatives first. The inspectors asked us to review the housing capacity of the existing urban areas to see if there's any further scope for more development. And the planning officers did that. They reviewed the urban capacity. The conclusion is clear. We have allocated all the brownfield sites that have been promoted to us. The inspectors accepted that there is also a supply of unallocated brownfield land that will deliver a high level of windfall development. And what that means is that windfalls are developments that will come forward as planning applications on sites that are not allocated in the plan. We also asked neighbouring local authorities close to Sheffield if they could take additional homes. They can't. Planners have also looked at whether we could increase housing densities on sites. Planners believe that the density calculations that have been applied to both sites, housing and employment sites in the plan are realistic and protect the character of the city, i.e. we're not just going to build tall towers that don't fit in. We're also not just going to build tiny box homes that are no good for families. All of this means that we are in the exceptional circumstance where, to provide the number of homes that the city needs, we are being asked to look at Greenbelt sites. Something I do not take lightly, something that I know as I look across the room that none of us take lightly. A rigorous selection process involving Labour, Lib Dem and Green councillors has taken place to identify sites, and details of the selection process is published today. While the biggest number of homes are to be built in the city centre, we do recognise that the distribution of proposed sites in the Greenbelt, that there isn't an even distribution of proposed sites in the Greenbelt in all areas of the city. So as we review the plan going forward, we will look at the potential to bring forward sites in other areas of the city with a fair distribution across the city so that we can maximise the potential to deliver affordable housing in higher value areas like on the west of the city. What we can confirm is that any Greenbelt land that is considered for development will be taken forward under strict golden rules that have been introduced by the Labour government. The golden rules set standards, high standards, for affordable housing, for essential infrastructure, and for green spaces. We will apply all the golden rules for each site in full. Golden rule 1. Sites must have affordable homes that are available to all. We don't want people to be priced out of their area. The local plan already sets out a requirement for all housing developments in the southwest, the south and the northwest of the city to have 30% affordable housing in those developments. And there will be a 10% requirement in all other areas. But on former Greenbelt land, we would expect even more affordable housing to be developed, to be delivered. Homes that people can afford. Golden rule 2. New infrastructure will be delivered at the same time as the new homes and employment developments. Let us be crystal clear. Not homes first, infrastructure second, but homes and infrastructure together to support communities. We will ensure that there is good public transport and road improvements, improvements to schools and healthcare facilities like GP surgeries. Where sixth form provision is needed, we will argue for it. We are bringing our buses back under public control so that we can design the routes that communities need, not have the routes that the bus companies want to run. We're making plans to expand our tram network so that new homes will be near to new tram lines that we are planning to run through the Upper Don Valley to Stocksbridge and through South East Sheffield on the Barrow Hill line. We will upgrade road junctions near to new developments, particularly in the north and southeast of the city. And we know that the council needs to take steps with partners like Highways England to tackle congestion, including at M1 junctions, in the Lower Don Valley, and in the A57 Crystal Peaks area. Golden Rule 3. Sites will have good access to green spaces. All new development is now subject to rules, which means that developers must demonstrate at least a 10% increase in biodiversity, either on the site or by creating new wildlife habitats elsewhere. Conditions are attached to potential site allocations to ensure that important features, such as streams, hedgerows, and green corridors, are protected and continue to provide access to nature. All of us here today know how important green spaces are for you and for your communities across the city. We all understood the value of green spaces during the pandemic. I'm proud, as I know many people in the room are, that Sheffield has more green spaces than any other major city apart from Oslo. That is why we're going to protect it. Only a very small amount of the Greenbelt is being proposed for release. The sites being considered would remove 3.6% of the total Greenbelt, but that means that the local plan would protect over 96% of the Greenbelt and the part of Sheffield that is in the Peak District National Park. And the stakes on this today are high. If more land is not provided, it is almost certain that the Sheffield plan would be found unsound. The council would be asked to withdraw the plan and start work on an entirely new plan. This would need to be submitted to the government by December 2026 at the latest. Any new plan, and this is important, would need to use new national methodology which would increase Sheffield's housing requirement to 2,390 homes per year, over 150 more homes per year than is currently being proposed by the inspectors. Over 40,600 homes over what would be a new 17-year period. A new plan would need us to look further ahead, perhaps to 2042, and by the time a new plan could be produced, more brownfield sites in the city would have been used up. All of these factors would likely mean that more Greenbelt sites would have to be released than is currently being proposed today. So without a local plan, the city would be vulnerable to speculative applications on Greenbelt and Greenfield sites, unplanned development in the wrong places. None of us want to see that. So, bringing it back to today, it is a fundamental and important principle of our planning system that residents have their say, and I encourage people to share their views. As the Lord Mayor has said, if full council today approves this report, the public will have an opportunity to have their say on the proposed additional site allocations. If the report is approved, there will be a 6-week public consultation from the 29th of May. There will then be public hearings in the autumn. If the inspectors support all or some of the proposed site allocations, there will then be a further period of consultation early in the new year. And then, of course, any sites that are included in the adopted plan would still need to go through the process of obtaining planning permission. Development in the Greenbelt sites would not get built quickly. It's unlikely that the largest housing sites would not see any homes completed before 2030 or 2031. They would be built over a number of years, allowing time to bring forward the necessary infrastructure, allowing time for master plans for the largest sites to be developed with further input from the public. Planning applications, of course, always provide an opportunity for residents to have their say. And if developments are not of good quality and don't meet the golden rules, then they won't go ahead. Lord Mayor, let me end with this. It is so important that people have their say. Today is the start of that process, not the end. There are lots of questions from people who have come here today to ask them, and I've been clear that everyone here today should be able to have their say and be heard. We want to hear from all of you so that information and answers can then be provided, and so that we, all 84 councillors here, can hear you. So thank you, Lord Mayor, and I think it's right that we now ask everyone to ask all of their questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hunt. I'm now back on script. We shall now move to questions and statements from members of the public. May I ask that participants be as brief as possible when asking their questions or making statements. And as I said earlier, keep to the content they have submitted in writing in advance of the meeting. As a reminder, the Leader of the Council will provide a response to all questions after all questions have been heard. Thank you. May I ask Christopher Pennell to come to the microphone, please? Be careful. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Christopher Pennell, MBE, MA. I live in Dore and Totley Ward. Actually, I'm chair of the Dore Neighbourhood Forum Steering Group, which produced the neighbourhood plan for Dore. I'm also chair of Dore's Green Infrastructure Strategy Team, which produced very recently a green infrastructure appraisal of our Greenbelt, which has been available to officers and to councillors. My question is this. When the Strategies and Resources Policy Committee considered on 30th April the paper proposing new Greenbelt site releases for potential development in an amended draft local plan, had officers presented councillors with any evidence of the impact of releasing Greenbelt site SWS 19, that's off Parker's Lane, any evidence of the impact first on the natural setting of the Peak District National Park, through which the park is approached from Sheffield and in which this site sits, and on the immediate view from the park, and secondly, on the existing valuable ecosystem benefits of that Greenbelt site to the city and to South Yorkshire, and thirdly, on the principle established by Ethel Haythornthwaite that housing development to the west of central Sheffield on either side of Ecclesfield Road and Hathersage Road should end at Worlow Bridge. And finally, on the existing logical and defensible character of the current Greenbelt boundary in that area, which this release clearly, bluntly and clumsily endangers. And if they did not provide that information, why not?
Thank you. We have two questions that are going to be submitted using hybrid method. Could we put this in motion, please? First of all, I have Sadie Charlton. Sadie, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Go ahead when you're ready. Thank you.
Wow, technology, isn't it? So my question is to Council. On the 24th of April 2025, some S13 residents became aware, without any prior direct consultation, that our Greenbelt is proposed for release in the updated Sheffield local plan. This is the largest Greenbelt allocation in the city, yet there was no Regulation 18 consultation specifically on Greenbelt release. There was no targeted outreach, no accessible jargon-free communication to help local people understand or respond. The NPPF requires early and inclusive engagement in plan making, and the Equality Act 2010 requires public bodies to consider the impact of decisions on disadvantaged groups, including those who are elderly, disabled, or digitally excluded. After the street tree inquiry, the council acknowledged serious failings in how it had engaged the public and committed to improving transparency and public trust. Given this, how does the council believe its approach to consulting with S13 residents on this significant Greenbelt proposal meets both its legal duties and the commitments it made following the tree inquiry? Will the council now extend the consultation period and take steps to address the lack of earlier engagement so it can demonstrate that the lessons from the street tree inquiry are being applied in practice and not just in principle? Thank you.
Thank you, Sadie. Hayley Smith. Hayley, are you there? Can you hear me? just on mute. You're on mute. This is, yeah. Could you unmute, please? Hayley? Okay, we'll come back to Hayley. If you could email and let us know, Hayley, when you've sorted your technical issues out, I'll make sure that you can come back in. Okay? If I could now ask for Adele Riddle to come to the microphone. Adele. You have 2 questions, I understand.
Yes, I have.
Lovely, thank you. Go ahead when you're ready. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, councillors, in Appendix 1 of the report, it is stated that the site identified as containing historic landscape characteristics in an area known to be archaeologically interest and contributes to the setting of nearby heritage assets on the land between Wheel Lane and Creswick Grieve. The map shows clearly that Town End Farm lies within a development area, bearing in mind that this has been a farm on the site for hundreds of years, and the current buildings and farm layout has been on the Ordnance Survey map since 1850. Are these not heritage assets which need preserving? My supplementary question is more of a personal one. I am the farmer's wife. We have farmed the land at Town End Farm, Ecclesfield for 44 years. We have a 3-generational tenancy. We are the first generation. We farm around 100 hectares, both public and privately owned, for which the proposed development takes up over 1/3 of our farming capacity. Most of the land affected has major historical landscape significance. In addition to this being an arable farm, we also have a cattery, poultry, we sell eggs to the local shops, with 60-head suckle herd and a small livery business. There's another private dwelling on site. We have invested as all life, well, tens of thousands of pounds in the last 44 years on the farm, which is owned by Sheffield City Council. The council has not spent 1 penny. The loss of the farm will have a significant impact on the rest of the land of the farm, potentially from a greenfield site to Greenbelt to Greybelt. We do not want to lose our farm. It is our livelihood. If you decide to close the farm, we'll lose our livelihood and our home. Why do not all the houses that's boarded up on Parson Cross and Shire Green and all the other areas of Sheffield, hundreds of them, why are you not?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mark Cocaine. Quiet, councillors. Could we have Mark Cocaine to the microphone, please? Mark. Oh, thank you. If you could make your way down. Thank you, Mark. Welcome. Whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. The development of the land to the east of Chapeltown Road and indeed development or proposed development to the land just eloquently explained by my colleague there around the Wheel Lane in Ecclesfield will have a significant impact on the already heavily congested traffic around Chapeltown Road, Cowley Lane, Nether Lane, Mill Road, Church Street, the Wheel Lane, Townend Road up to Grenoside. Traffic from the new developments in the Upper Don Valley already use the country lanes converging on Ecclesfield Common as routes to the M1, rat runs basically, with at peak times as long as taking as long as up to half an hour and beyond just to get from the M1 junction 35 to Ecclesfield. I know working barns that do that route every day. Ecclesfield Village, being in a conservation area, cannot cope with the volume of traffic as it currently stands on its narrow roads. What traffic alleviation plans do you have to improve the situation as it currently stands, and also considering the scale of the development planned as you've already outlined this afternoon? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I ask Richard Brown to come to the microphone? Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My voice, but if you can just bear with me. For the last 10 years, there has been speed restrictions on the M1 for traffic in both directions in order to reduce air pollution in the Tinsley area. Despite there being 4 lanes on the M1 between junctions 35 and 35A, there has been no such restrictions of speed in the area. And now it is proposed to build on the Greenbelt area CHO3 that is the only protection Warren Lane have from the pollution from the motorway. Why is this area, a green corridor of the council claimed he wanted to protect just 15 minutes ago, being considered for employment development, increasing massively the air pollution in the area when there are other more suitable locations and empty buildings, both locally and in other areas of the city, that we believe have been land banked by developers?
Thank you. Lorraine Meller. Lorraine.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Can the council confirm which words?
Closer to the microphone.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Be careful on the steps though.
I know that I've got vertigo.
Oh, I get it as well. I feel your pain.
Can the council confirm which wards are taking the highest number of Greenbelt homes in the updated local plan? And why a historically loyal Labour voting area like S13 is being asked to take 44% of them, while more affluent wards take little to none? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Margaret Lee.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Margaret. Go ahead.
So I represent Warncliffe Side today, the plot of land known as NWS31. Firstly, I would like the council to justify why it is acceptable to damage the ecology of this area beyond repair. This proposal risks damaging the integrity of the land, which in turn risks the flooding of Main Road, Warncliffe Side, and the new Outerbridge Mill estate. How would this be managed? I would like to ask, has accessibility to the land been truly established? Has the safety and well-being of the current residents, particularly school children travelling to and from school on foot, plus property, being considered? How does the proposal bring sustainable jobs to the area? Public transport is massively lacking currently, and I've heard Mr Hunt's plan for improvement there. But currently it is massively lacking, so there will be an increase in traffic. It can take 2 hours to get to hospital by bus or tram currently. There is insufficient medical support in the area, despite the large 300-plus Outerbridge Mill development, plus the 400 houses that are currently being built at Deepcar. How will this be addressed? Please justify, how will houses be affordable? I strongly believe the suitability assessment of this land is flawed. Insufficient science and due diligence has not been completed. Insufficient science and due diligence has been completed on this site. I urge the council to withdraw this element of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Housley.
Good afternoon, everyone. The government inspectors asked Sheffield for 52.5 hectares of employment land. The current proposal is for 67.35 hectares, well in excess of the required target. In relation to the land and site bordered by the M1, Thorncliffe Road, Warren Lane, Top Warren and White Lane in Sheffield 35, why was the Fitzwilliam Wentworth Estates proposal of a mixed-use development consisting of both employment and housing not considered, rather than the proposal which is now presented for employment land only? The Fitzwilliam proposal would provide a protective buffer of housing on that land, which rises behind the existing properties on both Warren Lane and Top Warren. At any part of the construction phase, how would this development be accessed? Can we be assured that there would be no access for lorries and construction vehicles from Warren Lane? I have a supplementary question which states in Appendix 7 on page 234 of the papers to full council.
Just 1 second, I'll just have to have that checked. Okay, Vicky, just hold with me,
yes,
just for
sure.
1 second. We haven't received a supplementary on this, and they were all checked earlier.
I've got a reference number. Came in on Monday.
Okay, well, we can call you back for that supplementary afterwards. Someone will come and check that. It's okay, promise you. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just take a seat. Yvonne McCarthy-Brown, thank you. Good afternoon, go ahead.
My question is in 2 parts. The first one is regarding the disproportionate development in Sheffield 13. Compared to the rest of Sheffield, given that nearly 50%, that is 1,738 out of the 352.9 proposed dwellings at the new proposed housing in Sheffield. If it's concentrated in our area, how does the council justify the unequal burden on this area, considering the significant recent developments we've had, the Pickard Estate, the Gateway Estate, the Fitzhallant development, and the neighbouring Waverley Estate? Has a cumulative impact assessment been conducted to evaluate the strain on the existing infrastructure, services, and green space? Further, how does the council intend to ensure a balanced urban development across Sheffield, preventing excessive pressure on our area while distributing housing more equitably across the city? Access to SEF 30 via congested roads with limited mitigation options is my second point. What traffic impact has been conducted to evaluate how this development will affect congestion already there, particularly those already operating near or above capacity? Given the limited opportunities to new road infrastructure, what viable mitigation strategies are proposed to prevent worsening congestion, particularly during our peak commuting hours? How does the council plan to address the proposed increase in travel times and access issues on both current and future residents?
Thank you, Yvonne. Andrew Robinson. Thank you, Andrew. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Robinson. I've lived in Ecclesfield village for the past 76 years. The top two key measures of the effectiveness of the Greenbelt are to prevent urban sprawl and to prevent joining up of communities. How does this plan, which will join up Parson Cross, Fox Hill, Grenoside, Ecclesfield and Chapeltown, meet those objectives? And may I ask a point of order question, please? I posted, using the due course and on time, a supplementary question. Am I allowed to read that supplementary question?
No, I've just had it checked by legal. You've already had your petition, so not on this occasion. But you will have chance further down the line in the process if the plan is approved today. Thank you.
Okay.
Right, I have a Stuart Keane, or it may be a Beck Nutton. Thank you. Thank you.
My name's Beck Nutton and I'm reading this question on behalf of my neighbour Stuart Keane. I farmed some of the land on the Smithywood proposed development covering 5.2 hectares. Why was I not informed by Sheffield City Council that this land was to be included for development, as I am the landowner? My family have owned this land for over 60 years. It is my livelihood and would make my farm unviable if this land were to be developed. The Greenbelt land serves several purposes as listed in the Greenbelt Review Update, November 2024, with a total score of 17 out of 20. This site was assessed as being higher quality Greenbelt land than 90% of the other 98 sites assessed in that document, which also stated that the Greenbelt boundary would be weakened by developing the site. Considering all this, and that the site is immediately adjacent to the ancient woodland and protected local wildlife site, why was this site proposed over the other 84 sites not proposed?
A question from Stephanie Oliver Beach, who has nominated Lorraine Meller. Is that correct?
That's right.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, Stephanie Oliver Beach can't make it today, so I'm reading this question on her behalf. For years, the Labour-led council failed to deliver significant housing for the city and a credible plan. Numerous derelict buildings remain neglected in Woodhouse, for example, and its market square is similarly blighted. Yet we are asked to surrender the very last bit of our Greenbelt our Greenbelt check on urban sprawl. Sorry about that. How can the council justify Bramley and Beaver Hill Fields suitable for development when its own data directly contradicts this assessment? Both Astleston and Ballyfield primary schools appear on the council's 2025/2026 oversubscribed schools list, as does Handsworth Grange Sports College. Yet, the suitability assessment claims a surplus of educational provisions, healthcare services are desperately strained, with just 9% of Handsworth residents able to access their preferred healthcare professional versus the 40% national average. With minimal time for community review, receiving services in S13 knows this assessment bears little resemblance to reality. Why should councillors have any confidence in this rush suitability assessment when it contains such a glaring contradictions with publicity available data. Is this plan to decimate S13's Greenbelt really as sound as the council wants us to believe? Thank you.
Pauline Andrews submitted 2 questions, which he's asked for Cheryl Hall to read out on her behalf. Thank you. Take your time, please. Go ahead when you're ready.
Good afternoon. I had been out of the country at the time when I found out that these questions needed to have been written and sent in. So I'm reading on behalf of someone else a question that they structured. Personally, I feel at the moment disenfranchised. This is the question. The Government Inspector's letter of the 6th of February 2025 clearly states the Council's updated supply evidence dated December 2024 shows that there would be a shortfall in supply against a higher requirement of 2,236 dwellings per year out of 38,012 dwellings. This would amount to some 3,539 dwellings over the planned period 2038 to 39. The Council's plan shows a requirement of 4,048 dwellings and indicates that this is needed should any sites prove undeliverable in the future. Which of the proposed sites are the priority meeting the inspector's target, and which are there in reserve? There is a supplementary question, but I don't think I'm allowed to ask it.
I have a second question, yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely, so sorry, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Sheffield City Council has made, quite rightly, the building of affordable homes and social housing a priority as part of this local plan. There are 8 parcels of land which were promoted but not subsequently proposed as additional site allocations. Which of these sites are council owned, and what could each have delivered in terms of affordable homes and social housing? Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Jonathan Rhodes submitted a question, which I think Beck Nutton is going to come again. Thank you. Go ahead, Beck.
Reading another question on behalf of another of my neighbours, Mr.
Yeah,
Jonathan Rhodes.
I just stated a Mr. Rhodes, that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I own 5 hectares of land on the Smithywood proposed development site. The proposed development of my land, which is my livelihood, is the first I've heard about this, so why wasn't I informed? St Paul's development only owns 6 hectares of the proposed 16-hectare site. And given that this remaining 6 hectares must contain a 15-metre wide buffer zone, which is supposed to protect the local wildlife in Smithywood, would impact on heritage assets and would need to leave access for the footpaths which traverse the site, how could this site have possibly been deemed more suitable than the other 84 sites assessed across the city? Like my fellow farmer Stuart Keane, my family have farmed this area for over 100 years, and the development of this land would have a serious impact on the viability of my farm.
Thank you. Christine Bennett has asked 2 questions and has nominated Mark Barlow to ask them on her behalf. Thank you, Mark.
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Barlow, and these questions are on behalf of Christine Bennett. The proposals for the land between Wheel Lane and Creswick Grieve show the provision of a secondary school and a special school. There is already a secondary school on the other side of Creswick Lane, Ewland School, and Chaucer School, also less than half a mile away. Ecclesfield School, the largest school in the city of Sheffield, is just a mile away on the other side of Ecclesfield. There are different academy trusts running each of these schools, and with the development of the housing land on Chapeltown Road and Ecclesfield School at full capacity, how will any new children into the area access the new school, and what will be the impact on schools that are the poorest performers? In addition to this, there is no mention whatsoever of nursery or primary school provision when there is a stated need for a secondary school and a special school. In education provision, it is very important that there is a relationship between the primary schools as a feeder to a secondary school. How will that be established from the existing primary provision in this part of the city? Thank you.
Could we check to see if Hayley is managing to get online, please? No. Okay, that's fine. Her question was submitted and will be responded to. And regarding Susan, yes, your supplementary question did come in, but slightly late, but obviously you did submit it, so we are allowing it. So please come to the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the supplementary question referred once again to Appendix 7, page 234 of the papers to full council regarding the land, obviously, Warren Lane, Top Warren and White Lane. And it states, a landscape buffer that was free from development will be required between the employment development within the site and the neighbouring properties on both Warren Lane and Top Warren. This buffer must prevent significant adverse effects on the amenity of all the residents. Could you define by significant adverse effects? There are examples, I am led to believe. Abbey Glen is one such example where significant noise is now impacting on those residents. Therefore, what size would this buffer be? What exactly would it comprise of? Who's going to maintain it? And how would it alleviate visual and noise impact on the residents of Warren Lane and Top Warren?
Thank you. Thank you. Before I continue, I'm going to ask to be able to extend this item. Do I have agreement from all parties? Thank you. Lovely, thank you very much. Right, could I just check, is Rachel Green here? No? Mandy Suradich, I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Helen Weston. Karen Riley. Danielle Clark. Emma Smith. Paul Janaway. Liz Glover. Jane Williams. For clarity, these people did indicate they would be here. I just wanted to double check as we hadn't had them ticked off. I'm now going to hand over to our Chief Exec, Kate Josephs, to read out some questions with... Okay, Kate, do you want to go ahead? I think it's Elizabeth Sadiq, isn't it, the first one?
Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you.
Yes, where questions are asked for their questions to be read out on their behalf, myself and the monitoring officer will read them out now. So the first question I have is from Elizabeth Sadiq, who asks, how has the council ensured that communities that would be directly affected by Greenbelt loss have had a meaningful impact in the local plan, and how have these views shaped the plan? The next question is from Matthew Sajkarek. I apologise if I've mispronounced that name. Why has the site CH03 been assigned to employment use when in the locality there's so much brownfield available for employment? There's empty units and available space nearby that's already concreted and good to go. Available space in Smithy Woods, brownfield on Grange Mill Lane, Space near Next Home and Weedon Street has acres. Concrete in Greenbelt cannot be exceptional circumstances and break the golden rules when brownfield is available. All brownfield options must be exhausted first and evidenced so. The next question is from Lynn Swindles, and she asks, can you please advise, if the above proposal goes ahead, how you can guarantee that there will be no toxic waste uplifted, as this land has previously been landfill? Also, what effect this disruption, building or potential factory conditions will have on our air quality on Warren Lane. We downsized and moved on Warren Lane last year for my husband's health and well-being. He has terminal lung disease, and this proposed development is causing him stress and concern regarding the disruption and any potential toxicity further affecting his breathing. Also, the effect on his mental health for the limited time he has remaining is cruel. Hand over to David.
This question is on behalf of Paul Manning. Where is the published plan showing in detail how the proposed new 1,600 homes on S13 Greenbelt land will be supported with GP capacity, primary and secondary school places, road improvements and improved public transport, especially along Beaver Hill Road? The next two questions are on behalf of Megan Torrey. Why were S13 residents only made aware of Greenbelt release proposals on April the 24th, weeks after the planning inspector's letter was published? What effort was made to inform digitally excluded residents or those with additional access needs? Why were no in-person engagement events, leaflets or ward meetings held in S13 before one of the city's largest Greenbelt releases was proposed? Do you believe social media posts and the central website are sufficient? And then the next one is Emma Smith, which is I am a resident of Warncliffe Side. I am registering my complaint at the lack of communication and consultation up to this point and my strong opposition to any building on this Greenbelt land. I have many concerns about the proposal, but my personal question is regarding public health. I have been a mental health nurse for almost 30 years and have seen a steady decline in mental health and well-being and in NHS mental health provision. Your government mental health plan states we need to take a radical new, truly cross-society approach to promoting well-being, preventing mental health conditions. The number one key question in mental health and well-being plan is how can we all promote positive mental well-being? And I hear every day the NHS, the mantra of 5 ways to well-being: connect, be active, take notice, keep learning and give. My question to you is, how does ripping out the living, beating green heart of a village community where people meet, play, exercise and engage with each other and the world around them fit with your stated plan to improve the mental health of our country?
The next question is from Rebecca Allen. What evidence clearly explains why S13 was chosen to take 44% of all Greenbelt housing across Sheffield? It has been quoted that Labour councillors want to see a fair distribution of housing across the city. If fairness is the goal, why isn't the burden of housing growth being spread more equally across Sheffield? Why were S13 residents only made aware of the proposals on April 24th, weeks after the planning inspector's letter was published? Why has the council offered the planning inspector land for 3,948 new homes, nearly 400 more than the 3,529 homes requested? How is the surplus justified? When will residents be able to see the infrastructure master plans that will support the development in S13? How will 1,600 homes be supported with GP capacity, primary and secondary school places, road improvements and public transport? What plans are in place to ensure the current flooding issues are not exacerbated by these proposed developments? And I have two questions from Aftab Sadiq. Can the Council confirm whether it intends to pursue or would consider pursuing compulsory purchase orders on privately owned land within the Greenbelt if the landowners do not wish to release the land for development under the local plan? And if so, how does the Council justify this course of action given the protected status of Greenbelt land and the potential lack of deliverability? If the Council is considering CPO as a fallback, can it confirm if this was disclosed in the local plan consultation process or factored into viability assessments for those sites? And how can the Council consider a site as deliverable under national planning policy if it cannot confirm the landowner is willing to sell or develop voluntarily? If there are no current plans for CPOs, will the Council provide clear assurance that it will not pursue CPOs on Greenbelt land, especially where there is no landowner consent? And Mr Sadiq's second question is, I strongly object to the proposed removal of Home Lane Farm and nearby land from the Greenbelt in the Sheffield local plan. Greenbelt exists to prevent urban sprawl, protect rural character and provide communities with essential open space. The Council has not demonstrated that the legally required exceptional circumstances exist to justify altering Greenbelt boundaries in this case. Home Lane Farm up to Foxhill Road has ecological, landscape and social value. It serves as a biodiversity corridor, offers flood mitigation and contributes to residents' well-being. Its development would irreversibly harm a high-quality greenfield site, contradicting both national policy and Sheffield's climate commitments. Has the Council genuinely exhausted all the alternatives? Has it undertaken a transparent, site-specific consultation with affected residents or merely paid lip service to views? Has the Council even received confirmation that this land will be made available, and if not, how can it be counted towards housing targets? I urge the Council to vote against this proposal, as once lost, this asset cannot be restored. And then I have a question from, and apologies if I mispronounce this name, Iwona Zwerziak. Why are we building thousands of houses on Greenbelt land, especially now when protecting nature and biodiversity has never been more urgent? The Greenbelt exists to safeguard natural spaces, support wildlife and give communities access to green areas that benefit health and well-being. It's deeply concerning that the City Council has approved development on these protected areas when there are so many post-industrial sites across Sheffield that are underused, derelict or falling apart. These sites offer the perfect opportunity for regeneration, bringing new homes, trees and community life to areas that desperately need it. With smart, sustainable planning, we can build the homes people need without sacrificing the natural environment. Let's invest in a future where we protect green spaces and make better use of land we've already taken. Destroying the Greenbelt is not the solution. It's a short-sighted choice with long-term consequences.
So the next question is on behalf of Stella Harding. Can the Council explain why two of the largest proposed housing allocations in the entire plan, 44%, have been placed on Greenbelt land within the same postcode, S13, an area that has high levels of economic deprivation and social disadvantage, including free and easy access to public parks and amenities, whilst affluent areas like Dore, Fulwood and Lodgemore see minimal allocations? How does taking away the majority of green space in S13, which is vital for health and mental well-being, comply with your stated commitment to spatial equality and levelling up? The next question is from John Bagley. My question is with regard to the local plan proposals and specifically the proposed removal of the Bramley Lane Beaver Hill roadside from the Greenbelt for housing development. Historic farmland that immediately adjoins on ancient woodland, managed as a wildlife area by the Council. The woods are noted for their floral and fauna and home to several species of wildlife which are active in the area proposed for the development. For example, the area has resident bats, deer and multiple bird species. In view of the mandatory planning requirement to achieve biodiversity net gain plus 10% on land that is being developed, can the leader of the Council explain what assessment this requirement will be met? In addition, what consultation has been undertaken with ecological organisations such as the Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust? The area is a beautiful landscape that serves as a green lung for the community and should be preserved in its entirety for future generations in perpetuity. The development of this site goes against the Council's stated policy of being a green city and the declaration of a nature emergency. Then, the next question is on behalf of Susan Smelt. Why were S13 residents only made aware of Greenbelt release proposals on April the 24th, weeks after the planning inspector's letter was published? What effort was made to inform digitally excluded residents or those with additional access needs?
Okay, next question is from Adam Bishop. As a resident of S13, I'm concerned about the council's proposal to release Greenbelt land for housing in the updated local plan. Given the council's serious financial challenges and recent failures in housing services, many of us are questioning whether this decision is being made to raise money rather than based on sustainable planning. What assurances can you give that this isn't financially motivated at the expense of green spaces and that any new developments won't suffer from the same mismanagement and poor oversight we've seen in existing housing stock? Trust in the council's ability to deliver safe, well-managed homes is already low. Before moving forward with decisions that will permanently change our communities and environment, residents deserve honest answers about the motivations behind this plan and confidence that history won't repeat itself. The next question is from Linda Hinchcliffe. What documents or evidence clearly explain why S13 was chosen to take 44% of all Greenbelt housing across Sheffield, and why wasn't it distributed more fairly across smaller Greenbelt plots in other areas of Sheffield? When and where was this evidence presented to residents? The next question is from Claire Pennington. In his email to S13 residents dated 7th May 2025, Councillor Perec stated that Labour councillors want to see a fair distribution of housing across the city and that Labour was supporting the local plan. Given this, could Labour councillors explain how it is considered fair that S13, one of Sheffield's most deprived, under-resourced and digitally excluded areas, is being asked to release Greenbelt land for over 1,600 new homes, while other areas have been earmarked for little or no comparable development? If fairness is indeed the guiding principle, why has housing growth not been more evenly distributed across wards with greater infrastructure, capacity and political representation? Significant objections have been raised citywide about the local plan's methodology and content. Will Labour councillors engage meaningfully with these concerns and press the planning team to fully explore all alternatives, such as making full use of underutilised brownfield land, applying Greybelt methodology more robustly and bringing vacant housing back into use before supporting irreversible Greenbelt release? Finally, how do Labour councillors intend to balance the long-term best interests of affected communities, such as S13, with their party's broader citywide and national policy agendas?
The next question is on behalf of Claire Elliott. I would like to ask the planning team to outline the specific criteria and scoring methodology used in the assessment of Greenbelt land across Sheffield. In the interest of transparency and public understanding, could this information be published in a clear and accessible format? Further, could the team explain why the Greenbelt sites in S13 were selected for release over other areas of the city, which based on those criteria may have been less used, less densely populated, or scored lower in performance? A clear justification is essential, particularly given the disproportionate impact this proposal may have on an already under-resourced communities. Next question is on behalf of Susan Atack. The leader of the council has stated that only 3.6% of the city's Greenbelt is being used in the local plan for housing and other developments. Unfortunately for S13, the reality is probably at least 90% of its remaining protected Greenbelt. I understand that Sheffield's Green and Open Spaces Strategy 2010 to 2030 commits to ensuring equitable access to green space for all residents. How is the local plan equitable for the residents of S13? And now a question on behalf of Alison Anderson. Why is it that most of the Greenbelt sites being suggested are in the north of the city? Why, when there is a huge amount of development in Utibridge and Deepcar, are there more areas, are there more, sorry, it's been a whole bunch, are more sites in the area being considered?
So now I've got a question from Sarah Ward. This is not something I normally get involved in, but living in Warncliffside for over 18 years, I would feel really disappointed if you built on this field that has become my daily walk, not once but twice a day with my dogs, who can be let off a lead and exercise. But if you was to build houses that would then increase the amount of people with dogs heading to Glen Howe, therefore this would then allow us not to be able to let dogs off the lead, and leaving Glen Howe Park the only place to let them run free, which would be a real shame for not just mine but for many other owners of dogs who frequently use the field to exercise their dogs. Not only that, my two daughters have grown up in the village from being born, now 17 and 18. They've spent hours playing, making dens, picnics, and taken away part of their history by wanting to build on this plot. We often had walks in there to look at the wildlife, and night time you can hear the owls. There are also, in the last approximately 12 months, nearly 100 trees being planted there. The next question is from Nigel Dorman. The Sheffield Plan for Handsworth stresses that the additional mitigation methods above those previously identified will be required for the local roads, item 4.16, page 16 of 55. These need to be fully detailed and explained, complete with timescales and risks. The report also suggests that the reintroduction of the Barrow Hill railway line would form part of the mitigation. I believe this project was shelved in October 2024 as part of budget review, so cannot therefore be included in any mitigating plan. The Sheffield Plan correctly recognises current Sheffield's transport infrastructure in the Handsworth area fails to meet commuter needs today, yet doesn't offer a solution, just merely a wish. Next question is from James Goodwin. Regarding the proposed development of Greenbelt farmland at Lodge Moor, A, why is this site being considered when it is unsuitable for development? There are more suitable brownfield lights in need of regeneration, and the Greenbelt should be protected and preserved for our local and wider environment. B, what else can the council do to fast-track development of brownfield sites so that Greenbelt can be left unspoilt for future generations? C, could the whole issue be postponed until at least after South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority take over control of planning issues next year?
Question on behalf of Lindsay Hudson. Warncliffside. It's a village with a great community spirit. Kids play out, walk to school, it's safe. Local children use that space to ride bikes and play. Many others locally use the field to walk dogs and socialise. It's a special place that we share with a unique blend of wildlife. It provides a community space with nature. We all hang out together and it works. Every village locally has some open space where people walk, talk and take time out. Stannington, Outybridge and Worrell all have these parks. Wadsley has the common. People use this space in the same way. Will the council reconsider and allow this to be used as a community area of common land for all? 700 new houses have already gone up. Traffic issues and access to the site. Ground conditions, wildlife and cost versus value of the site need to be investigated and clear. 160 residents attended a local meeting at very short time scale. Lack of trust of the council and how it operates. You are elected by the people and need to listen. Next question is on behalf of Andrew Webster. I would like to ask that the ecology of this site at Warncliffside that is being marked for development be taken into serious consideration. We have many butterflies in this field and over half of the UK species are now on the endangered list because we keep destroying their habitat by building on sites like this. We also have a very varied amount of insect life which provides food for the different species of bat that we regularly enjoy seeing flying over the field along with the barn owls as they hunt the rodents that this field provides for them. Since the horses left the field, it has been allowed to grow into a haven for so much of this country's ailing wildlife that I strongly believe it would be nothing less than an ecological disaster to build on this site. Then a question on behalf of Graham Oliver Beach. Within the draft local plan, the scale of proposed Greenbelt development near Handsworth is substantial. Before this council commits to a public consultation that risks becoming a divisive battleground for Handsworth residents, what specific evidence assures you that sacrificing this significant green space truly reflects local democratic will rather than undermining community trust in our council's commitment to listen?
A question from Matthew McCarthy. How will the council prevent the proposed SES30 development from creating traffic rat runs through nearby residential streets, exacerbating congestion in an area already struggling with bottlenecks, Bramley Lane, Grange Lane and Beaver Avenue, Grange Lane, as mentioned in Appendices 6 and 7, for example? Given the Transport Assessment Update acknowledges necessary mitigation at key junctions like the A630 Sheffield Parkway and Retford Road, what measures will be put in place to ensure diverted traffic does not overwhelm local streets and cause long-term disruption to residents? With SES30's proximity to an air quality exceedance area and the planned loss of 36.55 hectares of Greenbelt land, how will the council ensure that the influx of vehicle movements does not further deteriorate air quality and undermine environmental sustainability? Removing Greenbelt land not only disrupts natural habitats but also eliminates a critical buffer that helps absorb pollution. What specific strategies are proposed to minimise environmental impact, including offsetting biodiversity loss, mitigating air pollution and encouraging sustainable transport alternatives such as enhanced public transport, cycling infrastructure and active travel routes? Shouldn't alternative urban sites be prioritised before sacrificing vital Greenbelt land? The next question is from Jim Hobson. Having recently reviewed the list of brownfield sites, it is clear that there is very slow progress on the conversion of these sites to actual development sites, and I fear that Sheffield will find itself on a slippery slope, sacrificing Greenbelt sites to achieve quick and easy development in large numbers, whilst the brownfield sites continue to go untouched. This will be an absolute failure in your representation of the residents of Sheffield and your positions as a city councillors. Are you willing to put a guarantee in the plan that prevents any Greenbelt developments until all brownfield sites have been fully developed? The unbalanced approach to the Greenbelt proposals, where Handsworth in particular is bearing the heaviest burden, is truly shocking, and the loss of farmland and local wildlife sites will be an absolute catastrophe. Handsworth has already reached breaking point from an infrastructure perspective: roads, schools, doctors and dentists, etc. Following the ongoing development at Waverley, which is only part way towards reaching its 4,000 home plan, please explain the logic to how you think this imbalance is justified. A question now from Rebecca Johnston. Warncliffe Side, Storth Lane, Greenbelt development. 1. This is a unique ecological site full of diverse plant species, pollinators, moles, badgers, newts and owls, to name a few. How does the reclassification of Greenbelt fit in with the wider SCC ecological policy? 2. The field absorbs a lot of water and prevents flooding in the River Don. How does this policy fit in with the flood management policy? 3. The field provides exercise space and benefits mental health of residents. How does this policy fit in with the wider mental health strategy, given that mental health services have been decimated?
This is a question from Nicola Oates. During the Strategy and Resources Committee meeting on the 30th of April, the Council referenced legal advice but stated it would not be disclosed publicly. What legal recommendations are you withholding from the public, and how can residents be expected to trust the process when vital legal justifications for Greenbelt release, particularly in S13, which has been allocated 44% of the housing plan, are being kept a secret? Then question from Jane Williams. Read the Sheffield Plan. I impose the inclusion of NWS 31 Storth Lane adjacent to Don Avenue in Warncliffe Side. This area is rich in flora and fauna. Without cultivation or overgrazing, it has returned to its natural state, and due to its proximity to Glen Howe Park, acts as a corridor for wildlife, an important buffer between housing and the park. It is not a piece of wasteland, but an area rich in nature. In an area where we are at a critical point in climate change and the fall in species numbers, this has to be protected. Number 1, how can SCC justify using this particular piece of land when it is so rich environmentally? Surely going against SCC's habitat plan and the other initiatives to protect nature and boost wild spaces. 2, why more houses built in Warncliffe Side, Deepcar area, in addition to circa 1,000 houses built or under construction? 3, why has there been no improvement to public transport, in reality cuts and more traffic congestion? 4, if this goes ahead, will SEC assure us that any application to develop this land will be subject to the usual planning security? Scrutiny.
Thank you. I understand Jane Williams has asked for her question to be read out. Okay, oh, that's fine. Sorry about that. I'm just double checking. I don't want to make sure. Right, that is all the questions. I'm now going to hand over to Councillor Tom Hunt for his response. Thank you. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor, but most importantly, thank you very much to everyone who's taken the time to ask a question today or who sent it in to be read out. Look, as I said in my earlier response to the petitions, it's vitally important that everyone has a chance to contribute, have their say, and for all views to be heard. So I'm very grateful. A lot of people have taken up that opportunity today, some here in the room, some who can't make it. And I want to thank you for the patience that you've shown whilst waiting for your questions to be asked. I think, we all recognise that with so many questions tabled, there's no perfect way to manage this process, but I'm grateful for everyone for bearing with us. As the Lord Mayor said, I'm going to provide a response that covers as many of the questions that have been asked as I can, but crucially, written responses will be provided to everyone who has tabled a question, whether they're here today or online or not. But look, as the Lord Mayor said in her introduction earlier, I'm not in a position to be able to deal with very specific issues relating to individual sites. That is because those matters of detail about those specific sites will be considered in full by the inspectors at via the consultation process and the subsequent public examination if a decision is taken today to move to that stage. And as part of that process, the council will rightly be asked and tested by the inspectors to respond to detailed points of the kind that we've heard today via evidence statements and then during the public hearings that we would expect to take place in the autumn. I want to say very clearly that I really hear and understand the depth of public feeling about what we're considering today, and I understand how precious Sheffield's green spaces are for our identity as a city, but also for individual households and for communities. I want to reiterate what I said before, that we are in exceptional circumstances where to provide the number of homes that the city needs, and that is an employment land, and that is the sole reason why we are here today. We are being asked to look at Greenbelt sites. We don't take this decision lightly, because I know how much it matters that we get this right for the city today and also as we go into the future. I will reiterate what I said before, that without a local plan, we are left wide open for unplanned development. Less control over where development happens and when it happens, and less power to be able to challenge developers who may want to build on sites that we don't think are suitable. We can't continue to not have a local plan. It's not sustainable for us to avoid making difficult decisions. So although I understand that this is really hard, I know that across the room, when I look across, particularly seeing members of the cross-party working group, that I know that I believe that this is necessary. Because for too long, we haven't been building enough homes, which has led to the housing crisis that I talked about earlier on. Everyone should have access to a safe, secure home that they're able to call their own. I want to ensure that we increase the supply of affordable homes in the city because we all know how important that is. We cannot tackle the housing crisis without building more good quality homes. To address a number of points relating to brownfield land, let me state very clearly that the local plan has been developed as a brownfield first plan. The vast majority of new homes and employment land are planned on brownfield sites. Sheffield has been successful at developing brownfield land over the last 40 years, which means that the local Greenbelt has been largely untouched for that period. We all know, and we've heard it today, how strongly people feel about the potential loss of any Greenbelt, and I hear that. If I thought that there was a viable way forward, an alternative to putting forward these sites, then this report ahead of us here today wouldn't be here. The current proposals mean 96.4% of the local Greenbelt will remain untouched and protected if the local plan progresses. There were a number of questions about site selection. There is a detailed paper that's been prepared and published as part of the extensive pack of papers for today's meeting. Let me reiterate what I said earlier on, that I do recognise that there isn't an even distribution of proposed sites in the Greenbelt in all areas of the city. We are working with a range of sites that have been promoted to the council, sites that are available, sites that are deemed to be sustainable, and sites that, for example, are close to local public transport networks. We, our group, has worked hard to ensure that there are sites on the west of the city, and I think it's fair to say that there is not agreement on that point in the council. I'm committed, though, as we review the plan going forward, to ensure that we look at the potential to bring forward sites across all of the city, a fair distribution, and that we maximise the potential to deliver affordable housing in higher value areas, like on the west of the city. A lot of people have asked today about how communities will be engaged and are being engaged, and whether there'll be public meetings. Absolutely. This is the start of the consultation process. So I can reassure you that there will be a series of drop-in sessions across the city where officers will be able to attend and provide detailed information and answer public questions. Dates for those events will be published on the Sheffield Plan website once dates and venues have been confirmed, if we take the decision to move forward today. They'll of course be publicised through local area committees and online, and all organisations who are registered with a local plan mailing list will be sent those details. So to be really clear, this is very much the start of the consultation and public engagement process, and there will be many more opportunities for people to have their say, for everyone who wants to be able to do so to have their say. Some of you have raised concerns about the impact of the proposals on biodiversity, nature and on wildlife. The Council's Ecology Service has provided advice to planning officers as part of the site selection process, so their expert professional advice has been included in the proposals today. We recognise that virtually all development land, including many brownfield sites, will have wildlife present, and as I said earlier on, the proposals, if they go ahead, would be subject to national requirements for biodiversity net gain. Conditions will be attached to ensure that important features like streams, hedgerows, green corridors will be protected as part of the layout of the development. Where the site adjoins a local designated wildlife site, conditions have been attached which require a buffer strip of green space to be provided between the wildlife site and any land that could potentially be built on. Regarding the range of points that have been made today about traffic congestion and transport infrastructure, the local plan transport assessment has been updated to take into account the proposed additional site allocations. Part of that assessment looks at whether road junctions have the capacity to accommodate any extra movements of vehicles that could be generated. Where there are capacity issues at any junctions that could arise, measures are being drawn up to improve the traffic flow, and details of some road junctions are included that we think will need to be included are set out in the report, most in the southeast of the city, but also in the north. And any junctions that need improving would be set out in the infrastructure delivery plan as part of the local plan. The draft allocations have been selected on the basis of their proximity to public transport and or local facilities. This helps to encourage trips by means other than people having to rely on private cars. We know that public transport is not good enough, and that is why a decision was taken in March this year to bring our buses back under public control. Franchising will provide opportunities to look at the frequency of services and new routes to ensure that housing developments are supported by public transport. And whenever any developer prepares a planning application for a site, they will have to produce a detailed transport assessment, which may require further changes. The additional demand that some residents have highlighted that any development could place on local services have been looked at in the infrastructure delivery plan update. And I think it's worth saying here that part of the reason services are so stretched is because for the last 14 years, we had a government which criminally underinvested in our public services, run them down, so that we had huge pressure on services, vital services like our GP surgeries in particular. So this has been informed by discussions, of course, with service providers, including the ICB and the Council's education services. And where any additional homes may result in more need, contributions will be required to address the additional demand. This could be in the form of land or a financial contribution. And I want to reiterate here what I said earlier on, that as part of the golden rules that will be applied to any proposed Greenbelt sites, it is vitally important that it is homes and infrastructure coming forward together, not, as we've seen in some of the locations that have been mentioned today, homes first, infrastructure second. We will make sure that homes and infrastructure are delivered together to support communities. In terms of specifics, the Education Service has identified a potential need for 2 new secondary schools in the city, one in the north and one in the southeast of the city, and land is being proposed to be allocated for those new schools. A new SEND school is also proposed on the land south of the Wheel between Ecclesfield and Greenside. Primary school needs can be met by existing schools because the number of primary-aged children is forecast to reduce in the time when most of the new homes will be built. Demographic changes mean that there is currently an above average number of primary-aged children, but that is forecast to decrease. Discussions with the Integrated Care Board, the ICB, are ongoing, and any identified needs for new health services would be included in the Infrastructure Delivery Plan update. But crucially, the ICB anticipate that any additional needs can be catered for through the expansion of existing facilities. It's also worth emphasising again that the development on any sites in the Greenbelt would not be built at once. These developments are some years off. It's unlikely that the largest housing sites would deliver any completed homes before 2030 or even 2031 into the next decade. They'd be built over a number of years, allowing time for infrastructure to be brought forward as well. And the benefits of having a local plan is that we can be really clear with developers about what the infrastructure requirements would be for those sites. That is currently not the case. Some people have asked why the council has offered sites for both employment and housing that increase the supply of employment land and the supply of homes by more than was requested by the Planning Inspectorate. This is a precautionary measure to provide a safeguard in case any of the sites, for any reason, do not go ahead. New evidence may come to light during the consultation and public examination process, which could lead the inspectors to reject a proposed allocation or reduce the site capacity. If that happens and any insufficient supply is identified, the whole plan would be at risk of potentially being found unsound. We've therefore, on planning advice, allowed an additional margin over and above what was asked by the planning inspectors to reduce the risk of that happening. With regard to questions around flood risk that were highlighted, developable areas have been adjusted to take account of areas that should remain undeveloped for flood risk reasons. The strategic flood risk assessment has been updated in consultation with the Environment Agency, and conditions have been attached to sites. Based on the results, we're confident that any risk of flooding will be able to be effectively mitigated at the planning application stage. Where the strategic flood risk assessment includes a detailed flood risk screening report for every site. With regards to questions about the scoring methodology used in the assessment of Greenbelt land, there's a whole topic paper that's been produced which sets out how the sites have been selected and their scores are assessed against the purposes of Greenbelt. This is attached to as Appendix 7, which I know some people will have already had a look at, and those scores have been set out available from the Sheffield Plan website. With regard to some questions from individual land owners and users, officers have used the land ownership information provided by the site promoters who put forward the site for inclusion in the Sheffield Plan, as is normal practice. In this case, the site promoters have reconfirmed that all landowners concerned were aware and engaged in the proposal to promote the site for an employment allocation as part of the local plan process. I would strongly encourage landowners to make their position clear during the public consultation process so that any new information can be taken into account. In response to questions about compulsory purchase powers, the Council doesn't believe that it will be necessary to use CPO powers to acquire land in the Greenbelt. Based on the information that's been provided by site promoters, we believe that the sites are capable of being brought forward without the use of these powers. But just to reiterate, and I think this is a really important point, if people have got any new information about land ownership that comes to light now or as part of the public consultation, then the inspectors will obviously and rightly take that into account in deciding whether the site should be allocated or if an amendment is needed. Two other issues I just want to touch on. Empty homes and the work that the Council is doing to tackle empty homes was raised by a number of questioners, and we are taking steps to bring homes back into use. We've introduced council tax premiums for both second homes and long-term empty homes, and if anyone knows of any empty homes that are long-term empty, then please do get in touch with their local councillor or the planning team. We're also turning around void properties that the council has in its own stock much quicker. Questioners asked how plans have been shaped in order to support communities, and here I think it's worth reiterating again that all sites will have the golden rules applied to them to ensure that every site provides a high level of affordable housing, access to green spaces and infrastructure coming forward together with new homes. I really would just like to end where I began by thanking everybody who has asked questions today, who's taken the time out. I really don't underestimate this, taken time out to come in the middle of the day to a council meeting to ask your questions. You've clearly conveyed a depth of feeling about the areas you know and love, and we understand your concerns. So I'm grateful for your patience whilst I provided this response. I've tried to answer the main issues that have been proposed today, but just to reiterate, all questioners, whether they were here today or not, will get a written response following this meeting. And the last thing that I just want to restate is that this is very much the start of the public engagement process. There will be many more opportunities for people to have their say, and it was absolutely right that we took the decision today to ensure that everybody had the opportunity to ask their question, read out statements, and have them read by others. So I think there are more, to come following this, but thank you very much, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Thank you. I'm going to suggest now that we have a 10-minute comfort break. Before, I just want to say to Julie Harris, you will have a statement you wish to read out, and you will be the first person. I just wanted to give you the heads up. So I think everybody needs a comfort break. So 10 minutes, and then we'll go on to the statements. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your patience. We're now going to continue. We will now take all statements. Can I remind participants to be as brief as possible when reading your statement out and keep to the content submitted. Julie Harris, would you like to come to the microphone? Thank you.
My statement refers to the site NW S31 in Cliffside. The site is a vital and much-used recreational asset for this close-knit community. Lots of people of all ages, including families, use this site constantly, every day, to exercise their dogs, enjoy safe country walks, or simply to enjoy this green space, the wildlife that inhabits it, and the peace and tranquility of this beautiful place. For many in this community, and particularly older people, those with reduced mobility or families with younger children, this is the only accessible area of green space with public access available to them. It is a lifeline for them and vital for their physical and mental well-being. It is also of vital importance to local wildlife, and and is the home of protected species such as bats and barn owls, alongside many other animals, wildflowers and trees. We all have a responsibility to protect this wildlife and not to destroy their habitat. When I look out over the field now, I am extremely saddened to think that we may lose this beautiful and important green space forever. To do so would be an absolute tragedy, and I urge the Council to vote to protect the site from development and maintain its Greenbelt status. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have Sadie Charlton, who is online. Welcome back, Sadie.
Still here.
Good.
Thank you. My statement is, can you hear me okay? Yeah?
Absolutely fine, yeah.
Right. In recent interviews and written replies, Labour councillors continue to use the phrase, "We need a local plan for our children and for our grandchildren." But whose children and grandchildren are you talking about? Because in S13, it certainly doesn't feel like ours are being considered. The proposed release of Greenbelt land in our area, the largest single loss in the city, would strip thousands of residents, including our children, of their only accessible green space. No meaningful consultation has taken place. It doesn't feel like long-term planning, it feels like short-term damage control on a plan you've had 15 years to prepare. Air pollution in S13 is already at worrying levels. Taking away our green buffer will worsen health outcomes, deepen inequalities and rob children of space to breathe, play and connect with nature. S13 has been a Labour stronghold for over 90 years, built on generations of trust and loyalty. But that loyalty is not unconditional. It stops now and it stops with our children because they're watching now and they will not forget for their well-being and who chose to look away. And they're also watching today as we turn up expectant answers, only to be told our questions should be directed to the inspectors who aren't here and whose job isn't to provide more answers. It just proves we should have had a fair opportunity to ask questions through a proper Regulation 18 consultation process. This isn't democracy, it's an insult to every single resident here today who's made the effort, believing that their voice might still matter. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to read out a number of people who haven't indicated they're here, but they were down for attendance. Alice Ord, Val Murphy, Abby Parker, Rob Barber, Diana Radford, Katie Barber. Okay, that's fine. So our information was correct. I'm now going to request that either Kate or David read out the statements that people have asked to be read out by a member of the council. Thank you. I'll hand over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The first statement is on behalf of Jess Doncaster. I am writing to express my deep concerns about the proposed development on the land in and around Grenoside. My family and I live on Wheel Lane and will be directly impacted as our home is set to be surrounded by new housing. I've grown up with horses on this land. It's not just home to us, but to generations of wildlife and a way of life that will be lost. This isn't just about our family, it's about many others who save to live somewhere peaceful, surrounded by nature, not traffic and construction. After all, if the people wanted that, they'd live in the city centre. The traffic is already so bad we struggle to get on or off our drive due to the queues. The impact on Pennystone Road, already at a standstill, will be severe. This development also threatens vital wildlife habitats and historic stone walls and paths. Deer, foxes, birds, bats all rely on this land. Once it's gone forever. Wildlife won't return once its home is replaced by concrete. Sheffield will lose its greenery and become dull. Statement on behalf of Alice Thompson. I urge Sheffield Council to vote against the plan to build housing on Greenbelt in Lodgemoor. Lodgemoor, gateway to the Peak District, is one of Sheffield's finest areas of Greenbelt, and its destruction would decimate one of Sheffield's greatest assets, a visually stunning environment rich in wildlife, including badgers and several bird species on the red list for conservation concern. It should be forever protected, sacrosanct. Pressures on the semi-rural roads in Lodgemoor are already significant, and 258 houses could add upwards of 500 more cars a day to overused local roads. Worsening noise and air pollution and increasing danger for pedestrians without footpaths. The complex issues of population growth need robust government strategies. Building on Greenbelt is not the answer. It is an easy target, and the only real beneficiaries being developers who have speculated on this land. Sheffield's own plan to maximise brownfield sites and protect Greenbelt should be upheld as best practice. Additional brownfield sites will inevitably become available in the future. Plus, if international student numbers continue to decline, unused accommodation can be repurposed for housing long after this government's political point scoring have been consigned to history. Statement on behalf of Elizabeth Sadiq. Some sites included in the local plan are known to be part of the Duke of Norfolk's estate. There appears to be no public confirmation from the estate indicating intention to sell, promote, develop this land within the plan. Without such evidence, these sites cannot be considered available under the MPPF. Land allocated for development must be available, suitable and achievable. If the landowner isn't promoting or supporting development, the site fails the availability test, and its inclusion calls into question the soundness of the plan. Council must demonstrate exceptional circumstances for altering Greenbelt boundaries. If the land cannot realistically be developed, there is no valid justification for removing it from the Greenbelt. Including this land undermines the plan compliance and misleads stakeholders and communities about the true level of future development. I require SEC to provide clear and verifiable evidence from the Duke of Norfolk's estate confirming their willingness to bring Home Lane Farm and any other associated sites forward for development. If no confirmation exists, remove these sites from the plan and retain them within the Greenbelt. This approach would ensure that Sheffield's local plan remains compliant with national policy.
A statement from Helen Harper. I would like to object to the proposed housing development on Lodgemoor Road. The roads in this area are already extremely busy and too narrow for the existing levels of traffic, particularly parts of Blackbrook Road and Lodgemoor Road itself. An extra 258 homes will exacerbate this problem hugely. There's also the issue of the pressure on already stretched public services such as GP practices and schools. The development of Greenbelt land would also have serious environmental implications, destroying wildlife habitats. Sheffield has an enviable reputation as a green city, and I would urge you to maintain our precious green belts. A statement from Rebecca Tomlinson. I strongly object to the inclusion of Greenbelt land, particularly Lodgemoor, in Sheffield's proposed local plan. The decision is premature and undermines the devolution of planning powers to the mayoral combined authority, which is intended to support regionally coordinated sustainable development. The council has cited a need for 4,000 additional homes and the ease of developing Greenbelt land, but this prioritises short-term delivery over long-term integrity. The brownfield undeliverability issue stems from years of restrictive planning policy and lack of investment. Choosing Greenbelt now risks losing protected land forever, while brownfield sites remain untouched, an outcome that is both unjust and unacceptable. Lodgemoor is wholly unsuitable. It lacks proper access, infrastructure and nearby employment. Local schools, GP surgeries and dental practices are already overstretched. The site also poses environmental risks, threatens biodiversity and lies next to the Peak District, a vital part of Sheffield's outdoor city identity. Given national policy, public concern and impending regional powers, this decision must be paused. Please do not approve this version of the local plan. Sheffield deserves a more sustainable, regionally aligned approach. A statement from Kerry Hicks. This is a small village, recently increased by hundreds of houses. The infrastructure is already struggling. It's difficult for residents to get out onto the main road with the extra traffic, get a GP appointment, etc. The village can't support over 100 more houses. The site is full of nature and wildlife. See attached video of an owl hunting on the field. The site leads to protected ancient woodland, Glen Howe. The ecology of this woodland would be irreversibly affected by building here. I live next to the field and regularly have hedgehogs, newts, owls, kestrels and many other kinds of wildlife visitors which would be eradicated by building here. It is abhorrent given policy and initiatives which protect our environment that this is even a consideration. One visit to this field would convince any visitor of its ecological importance. The village would also be devastated at the loss of this central communal space which serves as our village green. I hope you can look into this further and reconsider the proposals before irreversible damage is done to both the community and the ecology of the village. And a statement from Rosie Wood. I would like to oppose the potential development of Greenbelt land in Lodgemore. Greenbelt boundaries should only be changed in exceptional circumstances. Brownfield should be prioritised and any moving to easy Greenbelt. Developing brownfield would improve areas and be closer to employers and transport hubs. Predicted level of housing may be overstated and not all land required. Limited local employment. No big bus service means car dependency, not aligned with government net zero strategy. Proposed site is accessed by a narrow road. Blackbrook, Redmires Road and Lodge Lane, Manchester Road junctions are both dangerous. Crosspool and Broomhill are bottlenecks. Blackbrook Road narrows to one lane and leads to other narrow lanes with no viable option to improve. Lodgemore can be cut off in the snow, an issue if you cannot work remotely. Schools, GPs and dentists are already over capacity. Proposed site has a Zone 3 flood risk and loss of farmland, which is key to food security. Proximity to the Peak District National Park and the effect on protected wildlife. Reduction of CO2 absorbing green spaces and increased pollution. Cannot see how 10% biodiversity net gain can be achieved.
Statement on behalf of Tanya Webster. As a concerned resident of Warncliffside, I would like to address the Council's decision on the proposed plan to develop 103 affordable homes on the Greenbelt land and of the Horsefield area, NWS 31 Storth Lane. This section of land is a source of ecological value. It is a home to many species of animals which will be devastated by its development. It's also an extension to the wildlife of Glen Howe Park. To extinguish the life of the field will deplete the life of surrounding inhabitants. It is fair to say in my 30 years of living in the village that there has been an increase in many different types of animals and insects that have made their home in the Horsefield. I would like to see the expansion of wildlife increase, not decrease, in years to come. The field is a central part of village life. Not only is it a place where residents walk their dogs and use it as a footpath to gain access to other parts of the village, it is a source for educating our younger generations of the beauty of our country life on their doorstep. I ask the Council to reconsider and revoke its decision of the proposed plans. Statement of Sharon Needham. I was one of the residents at the meeting on Wednesday night regarding turning our beloved Horsefield into a housing estate. I know everything will have been said that was so passionately said on Wednesday night. The obvious reasons, how much the field is used daily, this is so important. The meeting place, the walk through into Glen Howe, the wildlife, the berries, the wildflowers, the lovely calming space. Please save it for us as a community. We were so upset when we lost the horses, never mind losing the field. Please, I'll say it again, save it for us. Statement of David Thornton. Some councillors were able to attend the meeting held in Brightholme League Chapel in Warncliffside this week. Were you able to hear firsthand what 160 villagers thought of your plans to include our Horsefield in your proposed amended Sheffield Plan? This parcel of land owned by the council may appear on a map to be a surplus piece of land, but before you vote on your amendment to include it in your plan, please be aware that over the years this field has become a central meeting place in our village, a link between the two halves of the village across the valley and home to some amazing and rare wildlife. Hundreds of people use this field every week to walk dogs, meet friends, study nature and just relax in the open air. It has a unique and special value to the villagers of Warncliffside. If you remove this protection and put it forward for development, you will devastate this village. I ask you to reflect on the harm and upset you will cause and remove NWS 31 from your scheme. And statement of Alison Bryce. regarding proposals to build on Greenbelt land NWS 31. This is a small village, recently increased by hundreds of houses. The infrastructure is already struggling. It's difficult for residents to get out into the main road with the extra traffic, get a GP appointment, etc. The village can't support over 100 more houses. The site is full of nature and wildlife. See attached video of an owl hunting on the field. The site leads to protected ancient woodland, Glen Howe. The ecology of this woodland would be irreversibly affected by building here. I live next to the field and regularly have hedgehogs, newts, owls, kestrels and many other kinds of wildlife visitors which would be eradicated by building here. It is abhorrent, given policy and initiatives which protect our environment, that this is even a consideration. One visit to this field would convince any visitor of its ecological importance. The village would also be devastated at the loss of this central communal space and serve as our village green. I hope you can look into this further and reconsider the proposals before irreversible damage is done to both the community and the ecology of the village.
Thank you. That concludes the statements. I'd like to thank everyone for attending, your patience, understanding, and it's been an extremely respectful public part of the meeting. So thank you so much. I think we've shown the best of ourselves. Thank you. Please stay, because we will be moving on to the debate shortly. So it would be really good for you to hear that. Before we get there, item number 6, members' questions relating to business. I have been informed there are no questions on urgent business received from any member of the council, so I'm going to move straight on to item number 7 on the agenda. Item number 7, members of council bodies, representatives to serve on other bodies and related issues. It is to be moved by Councillor Mary Lee and seconded by Councillor Joe Otten that the Council notes the change in membership of the Waste and Street Scene Policy Committee and the 3 senior officer appointments as detailed in the schedule circulated at the meeting. Councillor Lee. Thank you. Councillor Otten.
The former secretary, Lord Mayor.
That was a bit loud, wasn't it? It's the actor in him. Does any member wish to speak? Okay. Is the motion agreed? Agreed. And I'm now going to move to vote on the motion. The motion's agreed. I shall declare that motion carried. Right, let's get on to the important part. Item number 8. Sheffield Plan proposed additional site allocations and updates to the evidence base. There is a maximum time limit of 25 minutes for this item. This item of business is to seek full council's approval for potential focus changes to the Sheffield Plan that was submitted to the government for public examination in October 2023. The specific changes are in response to the Sheffield Plan Inspectors' request for the council to identify additional land for new homes and employment use. The Strategy and Resources Policy Committee on the 30th of April 2025 received a report of the Executive Director, City Futures, recommending responses to the issues raised in the Inspector's letter. The report considered by the Policy Committee is attached as Appendix 1 to the report published with the agenda for today's meeting. The report proposes the release of some further land from Greenbelt to provide additional sites for housing and employment development. The recommendations are set out in the report of the Executive Director, City Futures, which was published with the agenda for this meeting. A motion to approve those recommendations was circulated to all members of the Council yesterday and has been published on the Council's website this morning. There are no proposed amendments. May I call on Councillor Tom Hunt to move the motion? You may speak for up to 3 minutes. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, I've set out today why the plan is so important, but let me just restate briefly why it matters. We haven't had a plan since 2009. This means we're not in control of development in the city. We're at risk of unplanned development and homes that come without infrastructure. Taking this decision today is a step towards more affordable homes and infrastructure coming together, more brownfield regeneration, good quality developments that meet the golden rules. A step towards giving people in this city the chance to get a good quality home. A step towards helping more people have a fair go in life. I know this is hard, but if we reject the plan, then we will need to increase the housing numbers and are likely to have to release more Greenbelt sites. So I say to people who may be thinking about opposing this today, that if you are against these sites, then where would you build? We have all sat and looked at maps, walked these sites, but politics is about making choices, not sitting on the sidelines. I say this to the Lib Dems. Your national manifesto committed to build 380,000 new homes a year, 1.9 million over the Parliament, considerably higher than the government's own target. You all campaigned on that platform. How on earth do you think you would be able to achieve that without having a local plan in place? I also say this to the new leader of the Lib Dems, the current chair of the Economic Development and Skills Committee. You have spoken passionately and rightly about your support for the city's new growth plan, a 10-year plan to grow the city's economy. But the growth plan cannot be delivered without the local plan. It provides certainty for investors and it will help to attract funding for major regeneration projects. It is simply not credible to talk about backing growth in this city without being prepared to take difficult choices that will lead to growth. Lord Mayor, let me end with this. This city is at its best when it faces the future and meets the needs of its residents for today and for tomorrow. In the 1960s and 70s, the city took incredibly bold steps to plan a major new expansion in Mosborough and the townships, tens of thousands of new homes to meet the needs of the city. The city built thousands of new homes at Gleaders Valley, amongst other places. Homes that provided new opportunities for people to be able to put down roots, get a house with a garden, bring up their kids, be part of a community with planned bus routes, infrastructure, schools, green spaces. They gave opportunities to people we know, to our parents, our grandchildren, our grandparents, and for some of us here today. We owe it to the next generation to build the new homes that we need. We've built sustainable neighbourhoods before. We can do it again. Let's not waste this opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. May I call on Councillor Douglas Johnson to second the motion? You may speak for up to 2 minutes. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. So, as Green councillors, we oppose building in the Greenbelt. And that's right. And I want to thank you to the people who've taken the time to show me some of the sites that you actually hold very precious there, because there is a real value in protecting those areas. And some of you have heard what I've had to say already. It is really important. It's important for climate change. The climate emergency means that we should build in city centres where people can walk to work in warm, well-insulated homes, instead of having to drive in from the outskirts of the city, like Handsworth, Grenoside. But we're in this position, and some of you have heard me say this already, the developers and the landowners are circling, and what they want is to have, a really weak local plan. At the moment, the council has to try and bat off these planning applications right across the city, and increasingly in the Greenbelt itself, with a very old, out-of-date local plan, dating back to 1998. And that doesn't stand up in the way that we need it to. So, across the chamber, people have been saying for years, we've all criticised the Labour administration for failing to get the local plan in order for years and years and years, and that's where we are now. We obviously want to build in those brownfield areas. I represent City Ward, and of course the vast majority of the building is going to be in my ward. Most of the building is going to be in the city centre, and certainly in the urban area. The vast majority is on the brownfield. But we've got to get the local plan through. The one decision today is whether we support a new local plan or whether we just open the doors to whatever developers and landowners want. The risk of not getting the local plan through is utterly catastrophic, not just for us in the city centre, not just for people with the other Greenbelt sites that we've managed to save from the development, but also on the... I've got to second it first, so let me just finish off. But also that point about the Greenbelt sites that
I have 28
are
speakers, Councillor Johnson, and 25 minutes.
Okay, but in saying that, I want to second the motion in support of the proposal on paper in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. The first speaker I have down to speak is Councillor Fran Belbin. Councillor Belbin, you have 2 minutes. I am going to be really, really strict with timing so everyone can get in.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And firstly, I want to thank all the officers who've been involved in this for their work, for maximising the brownfield sites that are going into this local plan and successfully putting the case that the housing target set by the last government was too high. Otherwise, we'd be looking at a lot more difficult decisions today. Nevertheless, we do have a huge housing shortage in this country and in this city. The Tories' failed policy on housing has actually made it more difficult for people to get onto the housing ladder. It's led to an increase in demand, but not in supply, and that's sent housing costs and rents soaring. And it means that developers are incentivised to build greenfield, out-of-town developments to maximise profits rather than housing where it's most needed. So based on that failed policy, I do understand the scepticism of some of the people we've heard speaking today. But the Sheffield Plan is the antidote to that failed policy. Nearly 35,000 homes to be built on brownfield sites, nearly 60% in the city centre where they are needed. But the planning inspectors have said we need more to meet demand, and that does mean using a small proportion of Greenbelt land. I've heard a lot today and in the last couple of weeks from people affected by the additional site proposals we're considering today about the impact on local services, on traffic and on transport, and about access to green space. The changes in the national policy, planning policy framework under this government have taken these considerations into effect, and they will making sure that these considerations are being dealt with. So here in Sheffield, we're already taking the steps necessary to put infrastructure into place, progressing plans to extend the tram out to Stocksbridge and Chesterfield. We're also ensuring that there's space for new schools, for burial grounds and accessible green space within this plan, and maximising our relationship with Homes England to provide more social housing. Please back this plan.
Councillor Penny Baker. Oh, sorry, no, that's right. No, it is right, sorry. I've got so many bits of paper here, you've got no idea. Councillor Baker,
Thank you, Lord
2
Mayor.
minutes.
Lord Mayor, as Councillor Hunt said earlier on, when the inspector announced that we needed extra homes, he approached all parties to see what ideas and suggestions they'd got to make the figures work. So I would like at this stage to thank most soundly Councillor Levery and Councillor Sanger for the work they did and for the support the officers gave them. So we went away and we put a plan together, lots of ideas, suggestions, red lines, went away, worked really hard, put that plan in the appropriate time. Well done, we thought. But then came out the local plan. Where is it? Where are our suggestions? Well, we know where the red lines are, because they've been very well crossed. If you ask people their opinion, if you consult with people, you should listen to them when they come back to you. And if you don't, you have to accept that they get annoyed. So our suggestions ignored, our red lines crossed. This isn't our local plan. This is your local plan. And you sell it to the people of Sheffield.
Thank you. The green light was still on as well. Could I call on Councillor Angela Argenzio? Thank you. 2 minutes, Angela.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. First of all, I want to thank everybody that has come here to make representation to us. It's really good to see democracy in action and so much passion for where you live. I also want to give my heartfelt thanks to the planning officers in particular and all officers that have supported the process of the local plan that has been going on for quite a few years, and colleagues across the chamber who've contributed to the local plan as it is in draft. I think that it's really important not to forget, as the leader said at the beginning, that this is the amendment today. It needs to be seen in the context of the fact that most of the housing, over 90% of it, is going to be on brownfield and in urban areas. Over half of that is going to be in the central area, as my colleague has said. And the central area is going to have double the housing that it has currently. So that is the context. So whilst my heart goes out to people that are here today, 3,439 houses represent 3.4% of the Greenbelt. This local plan is really important because we haven't got a leg to stand on when we want to oppose developments that do not protect biodiversity, that do not provide facilities. The guidelines are so vague at the moment that we cannot stop developers just building houses in the middle of nowhere with nothing.
Thank you, Councillor Argenzio. The next speaker I have is Councillor Willis Marshall. 2 minutes, Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. When I got elected last November, I did so on the back of a promise that I'd listen to local people and act in their interests. I do not believe if I voted for this plan that I could face the people of Woodhouse and Handsworth and continue to claim that in good faith. Over 100 people from Woodhouse and Handsworth has been in contact with me personally, as well as my other ward colleagues, expressing their objections to the plan and to ask for me and ward colleagues to vote against it, which I will say I am voting against this. And we've just heard the petitions earlier containing thousands of signatures also opposed to developments. We all know that we need housing in Sheffield, but it's where we put the housing. And we also know that housing developments take time to build. Councillor Hunt referenced it earlier. The plans will take years for the housing developments to be built. These constructions will potentially disrupt local wildlife, potentially disrupt their migration patterns, and could drive them away permanently, which would obviously destroy the local ecological character that the place has as a habitat for lots of local species. Questions need to be asked of Labour, both nationally and locally. Why is the Labour government forcing us to build in this Greenbelt when we already have plenty of brownfield sites across the city? As we can see from the public gallery today, it is clear that Labour is failing to listen to the people of this city, whether it be this local plan, the last local plan, the street tree scandal, the winter fuel allowance, the 2 child caps of benefits, and the cuts to disability payments, and other global issues. So why is it that Labour seem absolutely determined on doing exactly the opposite of what people want? I think the answer is this. The party just doesn't care. It's not bothered. Whether it's about protecting our greenery, for which our city is famous for, or listening to Sheffield's people. And I urge Labour colleagues to ask themselves in this vote whether they're going to put their party first, which is blatantly betrayed
Councillor
everything
Marshall.
that their party stands for, and I know they do.
Councillor Marshall.
For the city. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
The next speaker I have is Councillor Terry Fox. Councillor Fox, you've got 2 minutes. Oh, I've caught him there.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, I didn't vote against this. I didn't vote for this the last time, and there's nothing in it that I would vote for this time. Lord Mayor, if we accept this, Lord Mayor, we are turning bulldozers onto our communities. Lord Mayor, and I say that with experience. Lord Mayor, in my ward, the ward I represent, over 1,000 homes have been built with not one extra school place. No extra dentists, no extra doctors. Myself and ward colleagues, Lord Mayor, and we've heard today about affordable housing. Well, myself, not 24 hours ago, with ward colleagues, listened to tenants, Lord Mayor, listened to tenants, heartfelt destitutes that they've got with the increase in rents in the manner of over £1,000 a month for a 2-bed, 3-bed, and over 1,400 to 1,600 for a 3 to 4 bed, Lord Mayor, per month. Affordable housing. Really? Is that what we think? I'd love to hear what people believe is affordable housing in today's world. Come and listen to my tenants. Come and listen to their hardship, Lord Mayor. And doing a Greenbelt land grab is not the way forward, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, I've listened to the Green Party today. In fact, I've listened many times, Lord Mayor. And the Green Party should stand with their colleagues in South Tyneside, Southend Council, Bracknell, Hastings, Tymeshire, who have all stood against building on the Greenbelt, Lord Mayor. And here today, we'll see them turn turtle. And I said that, Lord Mayor, if I can quickly quote the Green Party on the Sheffield View in 2021, where the responses to the City Council options for growth showed that no building should take place on the Greenbelt until all brownfield sites have been explored. We agree.
Thank you, Councillor
We
Fox.
agree, Lord Mayor.
Thank
Let's
you,
see how they vote
Councillor.
today, Lord Mayor.
Just 1 second, Councillor Milsom.
Well, my microphone doesn't work. Apologies, Lord Mayor. I'm just aware of the time and the time limit for this debate, and I wanted to propose that maybe we suspend the normal rules for council procedure in order to allow all speakers who have requested to speak to have their say. Thank you.
Do we have a second of
Seconded,
that?
Lord Mayor.
Do we have a proposed time limit on this? Because I do have quite a number of speakers. 5:45, shall we say?
Lord Mayor, I think the proposal is to remove the 25-minute debate limit. It's not a proposal on the guillotine. I think we might have to expend the guillotine as well a little bit later on, if necessary.
So what are we extending the debate to all the speakers?
Unlimited, yeah.
Just remove the 25 minutes, okay?
Remove 25
That's
minutes, yeah.
fine. I just want to make it clear because I don't want hands up and getting distracted, and then we can get back to the debate. Thank you very much. So, is that okay? So we're going to, may I propose in accordance with Council Procedure Rules 4 and 11, Council Procedure Rule 17.6, time limit for debate be suspended, and that we remove the 25-minute time limit for this item of business. That's okay? Right, we'll move ahead then. Right, so the next speaker I have down is Councillor Mike Chaplin. Councillor Mike Chaplin, you have 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you to the speakers so far, and I particularly thank Tom Hunt for setting out what is a difficult situation here today, but it really is the only way forward if we are to have control over where we put houses and and buildings for economic development, factories and workshops and the like. Terry, I share your passion. The ward I represent in Southey, I have families where the young people cannot leave home and are having to live with their parents, sometimes under sufferance. I have others where they've had to leave home, go down to Howden House, and all they've been offered is bed and breakfast. That situation is not sustainable. We need to make sure we've got sufficient housing across the city. There are ways to address affordable homes, and one of those can be with rent controls, which is something that previous Labour governments have brought in. And I hope that our government will come back to that. Penny Baker, you spoke passionately against this, but you haven't named one single Greenbelt site. Not one Greenbelt site that the Liberal Democrats would countenance for putting homes on. Because you know what would happen? Your voters would turn on you. I call that cowardice, rank cowardice. Lastly, I just want to speak to the, if you like, an elephant in the room, and that's the Peak District National Park. That holds 1/3 of the land area of Sheffield. It is not a part of this local plan. It is not an area we can touch or build on. So we are, in fact, keeping a lot more Greenbelt land.
Thank you, Councillor Chaplin.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Levery. 2 minutes, Councillor Levery.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The residents of West and East Ecclesfield wards are used to conjecture and potential development of the Greenbelt, which has been going on for years. This despite the fact that the Greenbelt has remained untouched since this area became part of Sheffield City Council in local government reorganisation in '74. Its primary role to prevent urban sprawl and joining up of communities. Subsequently, in 2019, the Labour-controlled council prepared a plan which was linked to the Campaign for Protection of Rural England and placed in the public domain. That plan was rapidly withdrawn, but not without street furniture put in place for weight restrictions except for access on a number of country lanes between Grenoside and Burn Cross to enable access to the land for construction vehicles. Grenoside and Ecclesfield will be joined to Parson Cross and Fox Hill, with further pockets of land developed south of Burn Cross. The local plan process started again, spatial options presented to members in 23, and Labour and the Lib Dems voted for urgent urban regeneration of brownfield together with brownfield sites in the Greenbelt only, Greenbelt in today's Parliament. And now today, with 37% of housing land and 70% of employment land in the plan on Greenfield and the Greenbelt in this part of the city, with housing joining up Parson Cross, Fox Hill, Grenoside, Ecclesfield and Chapeltown, and a ring of employment development to the north and east of Chapeltown. Development that will take at least 15 years to deliver, with the misery of the noise and traffic for local residents to live with in such a constrained space. Once again, a revised version of Labour's plan from 2019, but with the added employment land. This plan urgently needs a rethink. It's neither equitable or practical when it comes to delivery. And it opens the door to speculative developments in the rest of the Greenbelt. It may be less than 4% of the total city Greenbelt, but it's 30% in this part of the city.
You have up to 2 minutes. Thank you. Councillor Gilbert.
In 2021, the Sheffield Star ran the following headline: "Lack of political leadership blamed for totally unacceptable delay to Sheffield's local plan." A councillor said, "It's totally unacceptable. It's once again been kicked down the road. We have already seen what's happened in Deepcar, where local residents, the community and the planning board all thought it was inappropriate to develop on that land, but developers were allowed because of the weakness of our planning policies. Developers are looking at Sheffield as a place to force through inappropriate developments because we have not got our house in order. What on earth have they been doing for the past several years? I fear more areas of the city will be developed now, regardless of what local planning boards want. It will signal a green light for developers to come to this city thinking they can nibble away at the Greenbelt and Greenfield, and that is a worry across the board." Who said that? Oh, it was Councillor Shafak Mohammed, then leader of the opposition. Now, Another councillor said, "This local plan is our city's opportunity to secure a bright future by building new communities with great environmentally friendly measures in place from day one. New homes should improve our city." Who said this? Councillor Martin Smith, their new leader. And I agree with their arguments. No excuses, no more delays. Sheffield needs a local plan.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ben Miskell.
Gosh, I think I can't, but Lord Mayor, I think I listened to Councillor Chaplin a few moments ago. I also listened to Councillor Baker in the debate. She's someone who I respect greatly. I also listened to Councillor Levery, who'd sat on our local plan working group for very many years. Now, Councillor Baker, now she says that she hasn't been listened to, but I do have to ask her, where are your group's proposals? What sites would you build on? Given that you stood on an election, on a manifesto commitment of 1.9 million new homes in the life of the next Parliament, where would you build? There was a clear opportunity today for you to submit an amendment, but you chose not to. You could have brought forward an alternative plan, even at this 11th hour today, but instead, you've withdrawn your support at the very last minute, having backed the plan all the way up to now, having been part of each and every discussion in our cross-party administration. Lord Mayor, I would argue that this is sheer political opportunism. Unlike colleagues on this side of the chamber, I'm going to be supporting this local plan and making the right choices for the next generation. Because as the leader has rightly pointed out, politics is about choices. So I put the question back to the Liberal Democrats. Where are your choices?
Thank you. Councillor Curtis Cosland, over to you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think this is a perfect example of what happens when a council does things to a community instead of working with them. And the only defence that Green Party and Labour Party politicians have is, if you let us build on your Greenbelt today, we won't come back to build on it tomorrow. That sounds like a bully. That's thuggery. I know that the Labour Prime Minister is trying to get close to Donald Trump. I didn't think he was trying to be like him as well. Now, I got into politics because I was driven by values and to try and do what's right for my community. And we know that getting a local plan right is hard work, and it does take time and it takes effort. But you know what else it needs? It takes communication with people. And all we have today is a Labour Party with their fingers in their ears, refusing to listen to people. This is exactly the same Labour Party that we had last year with Eckington Way in my ward, where despite thousands of people objecting to it during a public consultation, when the consultation came back, we were told we weren't allowed to make amendments because of that. So what's the point in the consultation? It's ridiculous. So, in looking at this in front of us, we exist in this chamber for the people of this city. All these seats we're sat on today, all these seats are borrowed from the people who elect us. So when those people tell us to listen, we need to listen. So I cannot support this plan today because I think this is just a Labour Party and Green Party people telling the city what they think is right rather than listening to the people who put them in this room.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Turpin.
Thank you. I have been sat on the steering group, the working group for the local plan since 2021, since it first began. And so 4 years of work of coming up to problems, dealing with them with some really professional officers. And it's really brought it home to me. Probably why we haven't had one since 2009, because it's really hard and it's really complicated. Now, it's been talked about a lot today. the difference between having a local plan and not having a local plan. And as councillors, we are frequently tasked with making difficult decisions. There's some of us in this chamber who don't believe in austerity, but we discuss our budgets and we make savings because we know it's better that we get to choose than someone else gets to choose. If we do not pass this plan, we will have a plan imposed on us by other people, by government inspectors. That plan will have a significantly greater impact on the land in Sheffield. We've also got murmuring going on in government about removing additions to new bills, such as things like Swift boxes. Well, the government can do that because in Sheffield, we've got it in our plan. We've got quality of housing in our plan that will be above and beyond building regulations. And, you know, this plan isn't just set in stone. We are lawfully obliged to review our plan within 5 years and every 5 years. Southwark have recently reviewed their plan. All new builds in Southwark will be zero carbon. You know, these are all things we can do with our plan. And let me also say, this debate is not unique to Sheffield. It's going on all over the country. Cornwall, in Derbyshire, in Yorkshire. There is pressure on Great Britain to build more houses. And we need to take our fair share of it. This is a Sheffield plan, and by voting for this plan, we are putting Sheffield first.
Thank you. Could I call on Councillor Tony Downing? You have up to 2 minutes, Councillor Downing.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We all understand how important the local plan is to provide that long-term vision for homes and employment. We desperately need it for our jobs, for growth, and for younger generations wanting to get onto the housing ladder. However, what I have repeatedly asked for, but is currently absent from this plan, is the traffic management and infrastructure proposals for the South East. Over the decades, the area of Mosborough and Bayton have faced steady development, leading to ever-increasing pressures on our road network. This is acutely felt around Crystal Peaks and Drake House, which again has been raised repeatedly as an area of concern. As a council, we must face up to the fact that with more development comes the need for greater infrastructure. The traffic congestion experienced by my constituents in the southeast of the city is just simply not acceptable. We need recognition that the area has fundamentally changed in recent years and that a proper plan is needed to solve the problems we have today. We are promised that infrastructure plans will be brought forward alongside the site plans for development, including this local plan. The infrastructure plans must deal with these issues. This vital infrastructure, including improvements to road infrastructure, must be delivered alongside any development so that residents can go about their lives without constant traffic jams and congestion. We need a local plan that recognises these concerns, as well as the need to solve the housing crisis. Nothing else would be fair to my constituents, and this is what I will continue demanding for the area. And just as a caveat, I would like to say that instead of keep building in the southeast and the north of the city, let's start looking at other parts of the city that have been left untouched, i.e. the southwest. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Downing. Councillor Andrew Sangor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Historically, Sheffield was a dirty city in a golden frame. As Sheffield transforms into the clean, modern city, there's an opportunity to regenerate our city in keeping with the magnificent Greenbelt inheritance we have been given by previous generations. Sheffield's Greenbelt has been accepted for many decades. Buffers between communities, arable farmland, grazing land, land of environmental and ecological value, the green lungs that many of us across Sheffield value for our physical and mental well-being. Earlier in the development of this local plan, all three parties on the council agreed that we would not release greenfields on the Greenbelt to provide land for housing. Now we've been asked to open up a significant amount of green space on the Greenbelt. Lord Mayor, has all the previously developed land been built on? Will there be no derelict sites across the city at the end of 2039? I've not spoken to a single person who believes that to be the case. We need to use the opportunity of this local plan to ensure that as much of our previously developed brownfield land is redeveloped for the benefit of all Sheffielders. Over the last 40 years, we've had too much land staying derelict, too much land banking, and insufficient support from governments of all parties to regenerate these sites. Lord Mayor, Sheffield's Greenbelt, our golden frame that provided the backdrop for the city for these past 60 years, our golden frame that can provide the backdrop of our city's success over the next 60 years. Now is not the time to build on Greenbelt.
Thank you. Councillor Marie Frahu. Thank you. You have up to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you to all members of the public for attending today. I would be very wary of the Yellow Army. As we have heard today, they are masters of misdirection. They know that not having a local plan will not protect the Greenbelt. When it comes to it, they do struggle to have the courage of their convictions, as has been evidenced by past comments by Councillor Mohammed and Councillor Smith. Now, I express a perspective that recognises the complexity of the issues at hand and the diversity of views within the communities that will be impacted by these developments. I recognise and understand the concerns raised by those who have spoken today and previously emailed me, particularly around the proposed use of our Greenbelt, as well as the amount of housing specifically tailored towards communities in Handsworth. These concerns are valid and deserve very careful consideration. I do agree with some of their concerns and would query why communities in wealthier suburbs such as Dore and Totney are getting away without having such a large number of homes in their backyards. Do the rich deserve more green space than the poor? Nevertheless, at the same time, the pressing need for affordable housing, schools, graveyards and job creation must also be acknowledged. These are equally vital to the well-being of our wonderful city. As councillors, we are elected by the people, so we need to be open, to listen, to learn, and to understand the full picture. It means recognising that no plan will be perfect, but that through constructive dialogue and inclusive consultation, we can all work towards outcomes that reflect the best interests of Sheffield as a whole. It is important for the public to get a chance to engage, ask challenging questions and ensure that the voices of the most important, the people who will be directly affected, are heard as this process moves forward. I look forward to attending many of the consultations that will be held over the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Alison Norris.
I'm elected. Okay. Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm elected to represent all the residents in Handsworth and Woodhouse, and this is my hardest decision as a councillor so far. More than half my casework is housing. There are 3 generations stuck in one home despite working hard. There are people sofa surfing. There are people waiting years bidding on council homes in unsuitable accommodation. We can't tackle this housing crisis without this local plan. I welcome the more than 34,000 homes on brownfield sites because that will stabilise, if not reduce, house prices and rents for everybody, and it will provide more council homes. But the inspector's request for more means over 1,600 homes are due to be built on the farm fields near Handsworth Hall Farm, SES 29, and SES 30, the land between Bramley Lane and Beaver Hill Road, the last big areas of Greenbelt in our ward. In negotiations, Councillor Rooney and I repeatedly pushed for consideration of other sites. I am grateful to Labour colleagues for pushing for a fairer distribution of sites across the city, and some were found, but not enough. I walked our sites with residents. On paper, you don't see the huge housing developments in Rotherham that hem our ward in. You don't see children walking to school safely. You don't see the badgers or the buzzards. You don't meet the people who, because of travel costs or disability, rely on the fields on their doorstep to de-stress. In COVID lockdown, people tell me walking here saved their lives. So I've decided to abstain at this stage and concentrate on getting residents' views heard by the independent planning inspector. I support the campaign to make enough effective representations for the inspector to decide this plan should be amended and this land should stay Greenbelt. That's hard. Professional planners assess the sites. But as residents tell me what's at stake is our Peak District.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rob Rice. Councillor Rob Rice.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I don't think anyone in this room actually is saying that we don't need these houses. Young people need places, secure places to raise families, older people to downsize. And as we all know, as councillors, our casework is often filled with the ageing state of our social homes. But the assertions that Councillor Tom Hunt makes that it's brownfield first, I've been assured that there is no line, no legal mechanism to ensure this happens in the proposal that comes before us. And these developers, they're not charities. They're not going to take the slightly more expensive brownfield land. They're going to gobble up the Greenbelt because that's where they make the most profit. So what we need to do is we need to treat them like a child. We take away that cake, we give them the vegetables and say, you get through that first and then you can have your prize. Because when the people in Chapeltown are going to be looking at diggers eating away at their green fields and they still see slabs of derelict concrete up and down this city, what are they going to think? And the assertion that they've all been allocated, that might be true on paper, but what does it look like in real life? It looks like the Sheffield Labour Party is doing this just to get brownie points from Keir Starmer and housing developers. Trust in democracy in this country is at an all-time low. As a Labour Party experienced in this year's local elections, you guys got an absolute pasting. And in Sheffield, that is going to come for you in 2026, unless you get your heads out the spreadsheets and start listening to communities.
Thank you. Councillor Brian Holmeshaw. Councillor Holmeshaw, you have up to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This is a Sheffield plan, and the consequences of not having a new Sheffield-based local plan are immense for the city. When I sit on planning committee, my direct experience is that I see developers already get away with poor quality piecemeal housing development all across the city, including on green spaces. So passing this measure will improve the quality of what we're able to provide in the city. On the other hand, rejecting the Sheffield plan, that means we will continue with the situation we have now, with residents and councillors with so little control over what happens in our planning in the Greenbelt and everywhere. Speculative development is already happening, and not having a Sheffield plan means more of it. I'll give you an example of what can be improved under the Sheffield local plan, and that's in the area of doctors, dentists, schools, public transport, housing density, improved space standards, that's the size of rooms in apartments, and more mixed tenure and family homes where they are needed. Also, community facilities. Currently, community facilities such as shops and medical services and community and youth centres cannot be tied to a development unless it's above, I think it's 400 houses. 400 houses. And how many of our developments have that number? With our Sheffield local plan, it will be housing developments above 10 houses. It's a massive improvement in standards, which I am very happy to work with on a planning committee. Infrastructure, as petitioners have rightly pointed out, is of such importance and cannot be improved under current regulations. We can't improve our school spaces, we can't improve our public transport to sites, but we can under a Sheffield local plan. It's built into it. There have been some great comments from the public today. Please engage in the public engagement over the summer.
Thank you. Near the guillotine, and I still have a lot of speakers. Councillor Craig Gamble-Pugh.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Please bear with me, I feel a little bit sick today, and
to be honest, I felt a little bit sick from the moment that we saw that these 5 Greenbelt sites in my ward in Ecclesfield and Chapeltown were amongst those that were proposed for Greenbelt release. And I want to be really clear today that because of my concerns and the concerns of my local community, that I will not be voting for this proposal today. And I'd say to my constituents, I know how strongly you feel. I understand. I live slap bang between the 2 large housing sites that are proposed within the ward. So I'm worried as well. And I'm really glad that my constituents have come today to describe the things that they're worried about: the loss of livelihoods, wildlife, green space, urban sprawl, the rat running, road safety, the GP and dentist places. These are things which we need to solve for local people. And I would say this should be above party politics. So as we go forward in this process, I will not be playing games. Unlike a member of another party who admitted to me recently, we will try to make benefit out of the situation. And in all genuine honesty, Councillor Penny says that their party had other better ideas for site allocation, but they won't say where. Where are they? Because if they're better ideas, let's back those instead. But you haven't put them forward. So what I would say is I will work with residents in my ward. I will work with you to support you to put forward your views at every step of the long process ahead. In the public consultation, the hearings from the inspectorate, the consultation on the infrastructure master plans, the planning applications when they come forward. We can make this so complicated and expensive for developers that their brownfield sites will start to look a lot more appealing. I'll work with the mayor to get the public transport we need, and I'll work with our amazing MP, Marie Tidball, to get the infrastructure that we need as part of the master planning process. But I will not be supporting this plan today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gale Smith. Councillor Gale Smith. Sorry, no, you're okay. You have up to 2 minutes.
A big thank you to all the people in the gallery today who've come and spoke from the heart, and many thanks to the many residents who've been in touch with us via email. We share your views. It's very sad that Labour councillors don't seem to care that the people of Sheffield what the people of Sheffield want and think. Their only consultation has been with their overseers down in Westminster, and not with local residents. I've noticed that all of a sudden, some of the Sheffield Labour MPs have started to come out of the woodwork. But is that too little, too late? The Liberal Democrats are listening to the people of Sheffield. We want more homes, of course we do. But we need these to be developed fairly and working with our local communities. The Green Party, well, who do they represent? 4 years ago, they said the Greenbelt in Sheffield should not be reduced in quantity or extended. But I guess that's gone, because today, that's not what they're saying. The Green Party, they need to change their name to the Red Party of Sheffield. I am both disgusted and appalled that the people in S13 were only told about this on the 24th of April, less than 3 weeks ago. That is an absolute disgrace. We do not believe that the Labour Party in this city have given care and consideration to our communities and not given any of them time to consult with each other. That's up to you now to
Thank you,
change
Councillor
that.
Smith.
Thank you.
Councillor David Barker.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I have to say that over many years in this chamber, I've never been more conflicted than I have on this issue. On the one hand, I absolutely 100% support the need for a local plan. We cannot go on having developments prefixed with unfinished, unsuitable, unnecessary, unaffordable and unsustainable, and to be virtually powerless to do anything about it. That does a massive disservice to the people of this city
and we need a plan to address that. On the other hand, having exhausted all brownfield options, to be told we need to find significant additional housing and employment land is a hammer blow. Personally, I'd prefer to see no development on greenfield sites. But as we have to do that, to see so much of that extra development concentrated on a small number of sites is not, in my opinion, fair or right. That the area I live in and that I represent is significantly impacted has no bearing on that statement. If the lion's share of this development was in the southwest, I would be expressing exactly the same sense of injustice. So why not just vote against it? Well, I cannot vote against this motion today because the alternative is worse. That would mean, as everyone in this chamber knows, going back to the drawing board, but a drawing board with a different set of rules under which we would be required to build several thousand more houses above what is on the table today. And be clear, that would be thousands more houses on Greenbelt land. And not as a Labour Party member or a politician, but as a proud Sheffielder who loves this city, I could not and will not do something today that will result in the loss of even more Greenbelt in my city. And anyone doing that today for the sake of scoring some cheap political points and trying to score a few extra votes should be ashamed. The future of this city is more important than the political future of anybody in this room, including me.
Councillor Barker, thank you. Bear with me, everyone. We're approaching the guillotine. I have 5 speakers that have indicated to speak. Do you wish for me to extend until we've accommodated those 5 speakers?
We'd like to extend the guillotine, please.
So we've finished the 5 speakers that indicated at the beginning of the debate. Nobody that's put the hand up. It was the 5 that I was given by all parties at the beginning of the debate. Do I have a seconder for that?
Seconded, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, and that will all, yeah, we've got to have the right of reply. Okay, fine, lovely. Just, no, sorry. Because I was handed a list earlier, and this is the list that we've had. We've already extended it once, and these are the speakers that I've had. Okay, which I think is about as fair as I can be. Okay, thank you. Right, where was I? Okay, so we're now handing this over to Councillor Martin Smith. Sorry, Martin.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We've heard a lot from Sheffield residents today about feeling disenfranchised by the whole process, and I was very much reminded of another very major issue that took place in this city a few years ago, when the key feedback we were getting from residents was a lack of transparency and respect and trust. And I'm also grateful to the Leader of the Council for reminding me about our aspirations as a city to grow, economic growth, and yes, I am passionate about that. And just a few weeks ago, the council adopted a growth plan. The whole council adopted it. The Leader of the Council voted for it. And in that, it committed itself to the growth we want and said it could do that and maintain the Greenbelt. Now we're being asked to do the exact opposite. I, for one, can't do that. I stick to my word. So, I would be very grateful if the Leader of the Council could explain how fantastic growth can be achieved and maintain the Greenbelt, and then just a few weeks later, say the exact opposite. I'd love to hear why. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Ruth Milson.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, as you know, my particular interest is health. And of course, I am acutely aware of the citywide problems of access to GP appointments that the governments of 2010 to 2024 created. And this present government has started to tackle this in a number of ways, including the new golden rules that we've heard so much about today, which sit around planning and rules that mean housing developments on Greenbelt must come with the right infrastructure, including new GP surgeries and also good access to quality green spaces for our well-being. What our voting does today what it does not do today is set bulldozers rolling on those greenfield sites tomorrow. There are no planning applications yet. What voting yes today does do is allow the formal public consultation on the proposed additional sites to start. It allows the arguments and concerns we've heard today from members of the public to be considered properly and fully by the planning inspectors. Nobody in this council should be standing in the way of that consultation happening, but that seems to be exactly what the Liberal Democrat councillors are doing if they vote against this today. The questions from members of the public today demonstrate not just strength of feeling, but also a real determination to participate in that examination of the proposed sites, to rightly use citizen power to challenge and to scrutinise. Everybody in this council chamber is paying attention, and I really want to press that point home, Lord Mayor, because a lot of people have done an extraordinary thing here in rapidly gathering evidence, discovering shared concerns and organising them to bring them to community meetings and to this council meeting today. All those arguments and concerns that have been expressed so clearly and articulately by members of the public today must go forward to the consultation stage to be heard by the planning inspectors. Public participation is absolutely key, and I sincerely pay tribute and applaud that today. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ibi-Ella.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, I'm a councillor of the Netherraden Sharrow Ward, a vibrant, diverse and close-knit community on the doorstep of the city centre. It's a place where people want to stay, raise their families and see the children and grandchildren grow up nearby. But our ward, Lord Mayor, has no more space to build new homes in large numbers. As a result, house prices and rents are sky high. Overcrowded households and poor quality homes are also issues in my ward. This means many families are being pushed out to further away areas, breaking important family and community bonds. As Councillor Johnson alluded to, the local plan proposes building over 20,000 homes in the city centre, nearly 60% of the total housing allocation. I repeat, nearly 60% of the total housing allocation on previously used brownfield sites. This will provide a range of tenures, including vital amounts of affordable and social rented homes, just a short distance from my ward. Lord Mayor, building more homes will also boost our local economy. It will create jobs, increase the demand for skills, materials and services, and offer an opportunity to train the next generation of tradespeople. Lord Mayor, I also welcome the inclusion of 2 multi-faith burial grounds in the local plan. With burial space in short supply, this is a positive and much-needed step. It shows our commitment to finding new burial sites. I want to reassure the community we're also exploring 5 other possible sites which we're discussing with stakeholders. Lord Mayor, in summary, the local plan is more than just building homes. It's about giving people in my ward an opportunity to stay close to their loved ones, build better futures, and strengthen our communities now and for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Whistling, up to 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Lord Mayor, last week I celebrated VE Day in Shire Green and Winkerbank. But among those celebrating 80 years ago, 750,000 people had no home to sleep in that evening. The country was bombed and broke, but its new government had ambition in spades and a plan for those spades, and it built over 1 million homes in 6 years. Bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchens, gardens for families that had given so much but had so little. Today we face a similar challenge. 350,000 Brits homeless, 4,000 in Sheffield. That is shameful. Hundreds of thousands living in appalling conditions. Like the family in Shire Green I spoke to last week. 3 generations, 5 people, 2 rooms. That is shameful. Millions of young people without any hope of buying a home. The average Sheffield house costs 9 times the earnings of a key worker. In 2020, we clapped them. Now it's time to build them a home. Because those families, those young people, are not in the room today, but they are not silent, they are seething. In 1945, the Attlee government built homes but also created the Greenbelt, not to stop people from having a home, but to give them somewhere to breathe when they did. And this plan does the same. Greenbelt used only because all the brown belt has been allocated, 96% left intact. But most of all, in 1945, homes were built for heroes, all heroes. No lies about foreigners stealing your home, no talking with two faces, calling for more homes in an election and voting against them afterwards. Lord Mayor, it's no patriotism to sit by while families live cramped lives and young people cannot afford to live in their own city. They knew that in 1945, we know it now, and that's why I'll be voting for this plan.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Councillor Laura Monaghan. Councillor Monaghan, up to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. In my ward, Manor Castle, lots of houses have been built without any local infrastructure. Those houses are really popular, but people have accepted that there aren't enough school places, aren't enough GP appointments, whatever. That's why I welcome this approach. It's time for change. We have got to have an integrated strategy for development of our communities. I also welcome the jobs element of this, because with the new employment zones, together with the development of South Yorkshire Airport City and the Advanced Manufacturing Park, we will have a growth corridor that will create jobs for our kids and grandkids. But I will disagree with Councillor Fox on one thing. Yes, there is some unaffordable housing. We gave land to a private developer without carefully considering how those rents would be constructed. That's why I'm confident this administration will not make the same mistake as previous administrations did, Councillor Fox. I think also I'm not going to play politics, and I think this is really appalling what the Liberal Democrats are doing. I am representing not just Manor Castle, where the demand for those homes is so high, but I'm representing the city of Sheffield, and I have to put personal feelings aside and say, what is the best future for this city? And this is the best future for this city. For so long, we've been done to by developers. We haven't been able to control or influence. The planning process doesn't let us do that effectively. They appeal, we can lose costs.
Could I offer the right to reply to the move of the motion, Councillor Tom Hunt? You have up to 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Thank you to all members who've spoken today to set out clearly what is at stake today. The debate has shown those members who are willing to take difficult decisions in the long-term interests of this city, and frankly, those who are prepared to take an easy way out. Councillor Rees talked about cake, which is quite fitting because I see a party that is trying to have their cake and eat it. I see rank hypocrisy. A party that wants to be able to sit on the cross-party member working group, influence and guide this plan to where we are, and then at the very last minute withdraw their support as if they've never heard of the local plan. Councillor Smith says that he sticks to his word, except that, as Councillor Gilbert so brilliantly pointed out, he so clearly doesn't. Councillor Smith seeks assurance that the Greenbelt will be protected. He knows that the local plan will provide better protection to the Greenbelt. Without a local plan, and this is what he is prepared to say to his residents, we are at risk of speculative, unplanned development. This is what some members clearly recognise and some clearly don't. And I say to him that if he wants to be a credible leader in this city, credible when it comes to talking up the growth prospects of this city, he is not off to a great start. He could be a much better, competent leader right now if he published the plans for the Lib Dem sites that they want to bring forward. I know they're there because Councillors Mohammed, Councillor Sanger, Councillor Levery sat in my office and talked about sites that they were willing to publish, they were willing to support. Finally, I'll just say this. It has been People have been casting around all sorts of aspersions about not listening. We have listened to the people who have for many years have had to put up with a housing crisis. Listen because they are struggling to get homes in their neighbourhoods. Listened to those people who want more affordable homes, who want regeneration of brownfield sites, who want investment in infrastructure, and who know that this is a brilliant place to live, but too many people are locked out of homes right now. They're the people we've listened to. Think of them when you vote in a moment.
Thank you, Councillor. I am now going to move to the vote on the motion, which will be conducted using the electronic voting system unless we have unanimous support for the motion.
Dissent,
Councillor
Lord
Oxford.
Mayor, and can I ask for a recorded vote, please?
Okay, recorded vote.
10 hands, 10 hands.
Okay, recorded vote, seconded. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Okay, fine. Okay. May I remind members that the vote is on the motion to approve the recommendations on the Sheffield Plan, proposed additional allocations and updates to the evidence base. Can I ask that the vote be commenced now and request that members complete the 2 steps of the voting process within 1 minute? Thank you.
Is still logged in.
One person to vote. We've already got one gone, thank you, yeah. 80, right, we have a result. No, we've got 80, there's 8 people. Sorry, that screen's slow, I'm on the ball, it's my last one. Mine says 80.
Mine says 80.
Yeah, of course.
Good.
Well, that's what you get for being a lord. Is he using his lord pass instead of his council one?
We've asked him out.
Thank you, councillors. The motion is carried, 45 for, 31 against and 4 abstentions. This concludes the business for today's meeting. Thank you all for your attendance, especially the public. I cannot say how wonderful you've been. Thank you. Oh, right, we haven't finished yet. We're going to, yeah. We want to pay tributes to Councillor Viv Nicholson. Has anybody indicated they wish to speak? Just 1 second. Let's just give ourselves a couple of minutes, just a bit of a break. Okay. do apologise, we haven't concluded business. My script was upside down. Yeah, can I please have anyone who wishes to speak to Viv, could they indicate now, just so I know? Tom, Terry, Matt. Yes, I've seen you. Mick. Andy. Okay, lovely. I'll take those first. Okay. Well, just, Councillor Hunt, do you want to... Shall we... I'm quite happy to wait, honestly. Could we possibly take the conversation outside? We just want to pay tributes to a councillor who's passed away. Yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy for you to continue it outside. It's just that a family may watch this, and I feel that I would like it to have the dignity that it deserves. Thank you, Councillor Hunt.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, I had the privilege of knowing Viv when I first started getting involved in local politics. I worked closely sharing an office with Viv, and at that point, Viv had been not a councillor for over 15 years, but someone who was absolutely steeped in local politics, who, when they lost their seat in 1999, threw themselves into a whole range of activities across the city, continuing to serve her community, park, castle and manor. Somebody who had served this council with distinction for 16 years between 1983 and 1999, but who carried on years of public and community service long after that, serving on a range of different community organisation boards and trusts, including the Arbourthorne Community Centre, for many years, a place that was very close to Viv's heart. Viv was somebody who was a real stalwart of the Labour movement in this city, somebody who served as a general election agent for 6 straight general elections and who ran a committee room with an iron rod. And so I think we, from our group, all owe Viv and councillors of her generation a huge debt of gratitude for the work that they did to support communities in this city through some very difficult years through the Thatcher period, but they served their communities with distinction, and we have all learned a lot from that generation of councillors. Viv and her close friend Pat Midgley, to name them, but also people like Joan Barton, David Blunkett, Clyde Betts. That generation did a huge amount for this city, and Viv's passing is yet another reminder for us to pay tribute to her, but also the work of that generation of councillors. So I think we can all just show our appreciation today. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Mick Rooney.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I mean, I was going to say some of the things that Tom's just said, but Viv is an absolute shining example, or was, of how to serve your community, your city, and your party. I mean, regardless of which party you might support, you've got to recognise the contributions that she made to this city in a whole variety of different ways, as Thomas said. But she was, there's a statue outside with the women of steel, and I can think of some more women of steel that might have a statue erected to them eventually. Viv is one of them, Joan Barton is another, Pat Midgley is another one. And I think they were absolute stalwarts of the Labour Party, but this city as well. And I think maybe at some time we ought to find some way of recognising all of their contributions to not just politics, but the makeup of this city at some stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rooney. That was really lovely. Councillor Fox. Oh, Terry Fox, I should have said.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I echo what Mick and the leader says, and I was honoured to be at Viv's funeral with the leader and Councillor Chaplin, to listen to some of the wonderful contributions about the lady. If anybody talks about a strong woman, she would be at the forefront. She put the fear of God up me every time. She was my branch secretary, she was secretary at the LP. Wow, she was the custodian of the rule book. She was the woman, along with her other two comrades that mix raised with John Barton and certainly my ward colleague, Councillor Pat Misley. They were three of the most dynamic women I've ever known, to be honest with you, Lord Mayor. And Joan Barton tells this tale, and she said it at the funeral, so with your forbearance, Lord Mayor, I will paraphrase this tale about the three of them, that they went around this city, and it was a time around when policy was being set under the old policy committees. And it was about licensing sex shops. And they went as a threesome to the sex shops on a fact-finding tour, as John Barton says, as a fact-finding tour. It was meant for an half-an-hour trip that turned into 2 hours, actually. Said one of their most enjoyable trips, actually, in the whole ideal of getting to know what they was about to pass policy on. And just before they left the shop, and the shop owner being exhausted by question and answers, Pat turned on her feet and said to Viv, "What the hell is that?" To which, very quickly, the shop owner says, "That's me flask." To which Viv and Joan contributed along the place. Joan can't recollect whether they passed the next licensing on the sex shops, Lord Mayor. But Viv, as the leader quite rightly says, 16 years unwavering service to this city. She was chair of education. And the one thing that she was really passionate about getting was she was Deputy Lord Mayor when she lost her seat in 1999. But that didn't defer Viv, because she carried on delivering for this city. She carried on delivering for the branch, and more importantly, she was Richard Cabone's agent for over 6 continuous elections. Tireless in the fight, a comrade to the end, and a fantastic comrade to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sangai.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and on behalf of our group, we'd like to pass on our thoughts to Viv's family and family and friends. Clearly, I remember her as a formidable chair of Education Committee. And clearly, in those days, we had committees, but we had subcommittees, and in those days, the school budget was something you had to fight over. And clearly, we didn't have any of these contracts with Amy or whatever, so it was potholes versus classrooms. So we do have it a bit easier these days, I think, but she fought really hard for education and for the children of the city. Clearly, the other thing she did is she paved the way alongside Joan Barton and her close colleague, Councillor Pat Misley, to make sure it was easier for women to get involved in politics, and easier to get for more women to play a part on this council. Clearly, she was our political opponent. She was a tough cookie. From what I understand, she was as tough with your group as she was with our group. So I understand where you mean it. And on a human level, whatever we think of each other, we throw insults. It must have been incredibly hard, because the problem of first past the post is it throws up safe seats or safer seats and marginals. And clearly she'd always been in a safe seat. And because her colleague unfortunately passed away, we had a by-election, we were on the ascendancy, we won the by-election in January, and then after all those years of hard service, of fighting budgets and all the work she'd done across the city, she lost the seat in May, through no fault of her own, but because a seat that had always been safe suddenly became a marginal. And I think we all need to, those of you who believe in first past post, need to reflect on that. But all of us in public life need to accept that we are here at the gift of the people, and that can come and that can go. But I just want to say, Viv Nicholson, she worked really hard, a tireless campaigner, as a councillor in those 16 years. She missed the opportunity to be Lord Mayor, which I know was devastating to her. But from what I've heard, she picked herself up, carried on her work as an agent for Richard Cable, but carried on her work for the Labour Party and for serving the communities that had elected her. So on behalf of us, I would like to thank Viv Nicholson for all she did for this city. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Chaplin. Councillor Chaplin. Sorry, did I say it?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Terry and Andrew, you've spoken very kindly about Viv, and I'm not going to talk about those things. I'm so glad you delivered the sex shop story, Terry. It certainly kept us awake during the funeral. I owe a debt to Viv Nicholson and to Pat, because the ward I represented in 1990 was the old Castle ward before it became Manor Castle. And so my constituents were, I should say included, Viv Nicholson, Pat Midgley, and Tommy Bower, who's no longer with us. And so I had, for some strange reason, Castle ward was an all males, the other councillor being Peter Horton, and Park and Arbourthorne ward was all women before the all women shortlist came in. And I know that as well as being agent for Richard Caborn, she was also agent for her two colleagues in Park and Arbourthorne, and she very probably did all the paperwork on that when her own seat came up year after year. So I saw her move from having a subcommittee position on leisure to taking on chairmanship of the education committee, and to really get stuck into that role. And she really made that her own. Although she took advice from people she valued, including Peter Horton, who'd been a past chair of the Education Committee in Sheffield. And so, yeah, so I saw her through that period from 1990 to 1995. You could say she was in her prime then, a sort of Miss Jean Brodie of the Education Committee under the Labour group. And I also knew her husband well, who was very supportive, Mick Nicholson, and went along with all the things that she had to do and organised his life and by then the grown-up children around her career in local politics. And they made a tremendous couple together. I think, as Terry has alluded to and Andy have alluded to, you know, her light may not be seen again. She was one forceful woman, in a good sense, a force of nature, and I will miss her too.
Thank you, Councillor Chaplin. Do I have anyone else that wishes to speak? I shall say a few words. I heard about Viv, and she was a bit of an urban myth, and there I waltzed into this DLP, feeling a bit, oh my goodness, with this very vivacious lady who knew the party inside out, who knew politics, who knew the council. And within about 20 minutes, she was telling me, don't stop wearing your skirts, love, don't do this, you keep on being who you are. And I think that is one of the things that I'll always remember. And she didn't ever tell me the story of the sex shop. And I hate to think what she might have done as Lord Mayor. My team might be worried about what I've been doing, but I think Viv would have pushed the boundary had she ever had the honour of being Lord Mayor, which I think she would have been absolutely amazing at. Is that they told me about when it was going out canvassing and polling, they used to sit on walls with their skirts a little bit higher with rosettes on. So which I thought, not high, but she said we had quite good legs, you know. We used to sit there, her, Joan and Pat, sat on there having a bit of fun. But, I mean, she will be greatly missed, but I know her and Pat and everybody else will be up there watching over and making sure that Sheffield stays, you know, with its heart in community. But thank you, that was lovely to hear those tributes. And that's it. And right now, I am going to say that concludes business for today. Have a lovely evening, everyone, and I'll see you all next Monday. Thank you.